Welcome to the Summit City, home to the 260's dedicated high school athletes and fans. Each victory and celebration captured by our cameras. Treasure the highlights from the Summit Athletic Conference this season, or complete games live or on demand. After all, nobody's more proud to call Fort Wayne home than Summit City Sports.
Many of us talk about what we want. Very few want to pay the price to get it. There's a price for everything. You pay a heavy price to be great. It's more expensive to stay the same. You get what you pay for. So focus on value. Decide your destination, drive that direction, determine your destiny.
There are tons of benefits to using compression therapy, but my favorite are speeding up muscle recovery, reducing swelling and inflammation, and improving my athletic performance.
Quit wishing and working. Quit worrying and working. Quit whining and working. Just work.
I choose to do whole body cryotherapy after practices, games, and training. It reduces inflammation in my muscles and allows me to move more agile throughout my profession. I became a believer in iCryo after my severe injury in college at Notre Dame, tore my ACL, and I was looking for ways to recover, ways to get back on the field. So I'm thankful for iCryo.
The athletes has always been here, and they're getting better. I'm watching, Summit City Sports, man, they're doing an awesome job. And, that's a plug. Them dudes are doing an outstanding job. And I'm able to be in Nashville and watch games on YouTube that they're broadcasting, and I'm seeing the talent. And it is just truly outstanding. And, you guys have seen the talent that's in the NFL now from Fort Wayne, Indiana, the talent that's coming up now, and the talent that, is just here, man. It's really cool.
God doesn't worry if you believe in him. He simply says be, and it is. The sun, the moon, the stars, this universe all bear witness to him. His work is evident. You see it, you benefit from it. But God believed in himself before he told us to. Don't focus on who believes in you. Believe in yourself. Let your work be a witness to you.
Welcome in, everybody, to the Midwest Exposure Skill Camp. This is a football camp put on by Traction Athletic Performance, Traction AP here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. We are currently at the Empowered Sports Club on the north side of Fort Wayne. My name is Jeff Mahoney, and I'll be guiding you through today's exposure camp. And down on the field, we have Darion White. Many of you guys got to hear from him last year during our two-weekend exposure camp. This is the first of two we're going to have this winter and the upcoming spring. The next one will be March the 20th here at Empowered. Once again, we got about 90 athletes on hand This is going to be one session. We'll get done about 5:45. And we got some really good names just popping off the charts. Ryland Crawford, a wide receiver and defensive back from Leo High School, goes 6'3", 180. He's got all kinds of skills and tools to work with in his toolbox. Luke Halpert, a sophomore quarterback last year. He'll be a junior for the 2021 season. Luke Halpert's here. He got his start, I think, about game number 3 or 4 last year for Snyder High School. Eli Maddox, another quarterback who got some time with Concordia Lutheran when their quarterback went down early in the season. Jackson McCall, a defensive back out of Snyder High School. He'll be a junior in the upcoming season. So some young, big names on hand here at the Midwest Exposure Camp. We have Tyler Sorg on camera, and once again, Darion down on the field. And Darion, let me know when you're ready. I know you got an interview with us, and folks that were watching the promo video before this skills camp started, that was Deuce Taylor, and Deuce finished off a great senior season. Darion, at one point here in the city of Fort Wayne, we had the top 2 quarterbacks in the state with Deuce and Jeffrey Becker atop the charts. And then obviously you coaching at Bishop Luers, you saw what Carson Clark ended up doing. Carson led the Summit Athletic Conference with 3,592 yards passing, 38 touchdowns, and 11 interviews. Pretty impressive performance this year for the junior QB Carson Clark. Darion, it was a great season for you guys over at Bishop Luers. Just comment on the quarterback play and how you guys kind of evolved as the season went on.
Thought I had a dead mic there. Okay, we're good. Great introduction there. It was a really good, interesting season. I don't think any of us were surprised to see what Deuce Taylor and Carson Clark were able to do this year. For anybody that's been around our program for any length of time, those are 2 kids that's been around since they were in middle school. So to see the success that they had last year wasn't a surprise for us, maybe a surprise for many around the city, especially in Carson Clark's case. Whereas he had a sophomore year, was kind of thrown into the spotlight and struggled, honestly, a little bit with the new responsibilities. And then his junior year, he saw some improvement. Sophomore year, you saw that improvement over the course of the year. And then junior year, you saw what he was able to do last year with leading the state as far as quarterback numbers are concerned. He broke a lot of Bishop Luers records, which was excellent. He had a good supporting cast of receivers that were there to help him out with Brody Glenn and Craigshawn Minson, who both were all-state receivers for Bishop Luers High School. So when you have that kind of help around you, it's no surprise to see that kind of success. But if you know how hard he's worked since he's been a middle school athlete, then it's not surprising.
You know, Darion, talk about this exposure camp. Last year we had a lot of success at the end of June, ton of athletes coming through. We got about 80 to 90 guys down on the surface right now looking to show off their skills. And once again, kids from all over the place. Michigan, we have a kid from Wheaton North out of Illinois, and Cathedral High School down in Indy. So just talk about what kind of response did you get from last summer's exposure camp?
Well, we thought the response from the camp was excellent. And one of the things we touched on last year during the camp was how many kids, like you mentioned, were from out of town, who were not from Indiana. And I think you'll see that again today. It's interesting to see how each state is kind of handling the situation that we're in right now with COVID. I know that Illinois is for the most part shut down, as well as Michigan. So you'll probably see some kids from both of those states who are just trying to get out and get a little bit more exposure, since their states tend to be a little bit more tight on as far as the rules of competition with the young adults here. So Indiana being a little bit more loose with it, we're able to have this exposure camp. So what this does is provide these kids with an opportunity to get some exposure that they would not have gotten otherwise, especially with a lot of the 7-on-7 seasons and things like that not transpiring this year just because of COVID. So what we're able to do is give these kids a platform to showcase their skills and get them some looks that they may have not gotten otherwise.
You know, talk about that 7-on-7 season coming up. You are the head coach here at Traction AP, And do we have any of your players down on the turf that we're going to see today?
Oh, yeah, definitely. They're all sprinkled in here. We already mentioned a few of them. So, yeah, Brody Glenn is down here, really good receiver. Bishop. Yeah, Mike keeps dying on me. I'm not sure what that was.
We'll make sure not to go too far then.
Yeah, I think maybe I'm getting too far away. But Ryland Crawford, you mentioned him earlier, receiver out at Leo High School. I think he's going to have a really good year next year, put himself on the map. But things like this are really good for a kid like him who doesn't have a lot of film from, different. Every program's different. Some of them aren't real.
And we're gonna keep working on that mic right there. Might have to get some new batteries for Darion. But joining me up here in the booth, I got Joe Walburn joining us, and obviously Joe played his junior college football at Taft out in California, and played at the University of Cincinnati. He's a Southside graduate. Joe is joining me on the broadcast all year this past fall. And, Joe, it's good to have football back here in February, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great to be out here and great to see the kids, and I'm excited to see all the talent. And I tell you, the facilities out here are awesome, and they didn't have stuff like this when we played, Jeff, so this is absolutely awesome to come check it out. And I tell you what, I was happy to get out of the office because I got tired of having to watch the IU basketball and Archie Miller lose another game, so it's great to be out here, man. I'll watch a little football, right?
Yeah, Joe, you saw a lot of football last year. Who are some of the athletes in the area that really stood out to you?
Oh, I tell you what, the quarterback play was fantastic. Obviously, Deuce was just a beast last year, threw for almost 3,000 yards. I mean, Jeffrey Becker was huge, but also some of the other kids that really played well at the quarterback position. So I always find this exciting because you come out here and you see some of the kids that are up and coming. One kid that I'm familiar with who's going to be out here today is Austin Keyser. And I tell you, I'm excited to see him. And I tell you what, Jeff, he's down to run a 4.59 the 40. And what's crazy is the second half of his 40 is slower than his first half. So he's still trying to figure some things out with that. But I tell you what, with the 37-inch vertical leap, some of the things that he can do are just awesome. So Homestead's really becoming a football factory out there. So I'm excited to see him and just excited to see all these quarterbacks spin the football today, Jeff.
One of the names that popped out to me here on this list of athletes is Rylan Crawford. You remember the young man out of Leo High School. Joe, what a year he had. Now, they're a running offense, and rightfully so, with Landon Livingston and Colin Butler, two of their big offensive linemen that they got. But I know you were really impressed with Ryland Crawford, and we definitely knew that you cannot cover that man one-on-one.
No, you cannot. Ryland Crawford was just fantastic, 6'3", 195. The junior, and just dominated high school football last year. And you're right, Jeff. They just had a hard time getting him the football because they run the old T formation. But when Crawford was involved, that was a difference maker. Remember the game up at Northridge? Leo took the lead when Crawford got that reverse to score that touchdown. So that was really big for Leo. But Crawford is dominant, not only at the receiver position, Jeff, but he might be a better prospect in the defensive backfield.
Yeah, and Joe, we got Darion White down on the turf. He's the head coach here for the 7-on-7 team for Traction AP, and he was also an assistant coach over at Bishop Lures under Kyle Lindsey. And, they had a great run there in the postseason. A lot of people picked them to lose that game against Eastside. They overcame that, beat Eastside, went all the way, and nearly pulled off a state championship.
And how about the semi-state game, to come back against Pioneer? What were they down, 28-7 at the half? So they really came on. And I watched their tape when they played Homestead early on, and you could see the talent they had in their pass game.
Yeah, just as a little bit of inside knowledge, we felt like we had a pretty good team from the beginning of the season.
Oh, yeah.
We knew that the results from the year prior weren't exactly where we thought we were as a football program. So we inserted a little bit more of a higher standard for ourselves during the season and during the preseason going into it. And I think it really showed itself. And one of the messages we wanted to keep reiterating to the kids was no matter what happens during the SAC, just be prepared for the playoff run. And so that second season is what we wanted to really get prepared for. And I think you saw the result of just kind of grinding hard throughout the SAC all year. being in games early and then losing it late, learning from it, figuring out what it was we needed to do different to become a winning team again.
Sure.
And then I think you saw that momentum take place during the playoffs.
It did, and it seemed like when you guys had this success, the kids played harder and really bought in. And that was always kind of been what Jeff and I have seen with Bishop Bluers over the years. They always seem to play better in the playoffs, but because I think it's key to have something to shoot for when the playoffs come. But that playoff run was fantastic, and you guys really cranked up the offense. And I tell you, obviously we're a little bit of homers here, but a couple of those calls in that state championship game were very suspicious at the end, Jeff.
Yeah, that's 100%. You know, Darion, going into the season last year, there's a couple wide receivers that have transferred out, and I was just, I don't want to say shocked, but pleasantly surprised with how Brody Glenn picked it up. And that 1-2 punch of Carson Clark, and we saw Carson this past summer at the Midwest Exposure Camp, and, he was fantastic. You could see that the talent was there. But what those two developed, it was something special this past season.
Well, it definitely wasn't an accident. That was something that they did over the course of the summer prior to the season. We actually had a running joke within the program. We would look at them and we would say all summer long, because those two literally got together all summer long. We're throwing the ball. So you can obviously see the synergy between them. It was something that you just can't recreate other than having that many reps. And you saw it take place during the season. I think Brody was a bit of a safety blanket for Carson. When things got tough, he kind of just found him, get the ball in the air, 50-50 ball, let him make a play, and Brody just happened to make the plays when they were time to be made. I think also, too, what happened during the course of the season, which really helped us out, is the addition of Craigshawn Minson. So Minson was with Northrop High School the year before. He transferred into Lures and gave us another layer that we didn't have. I think we were able to use a little bit of speed, and teams had to respect the deep ball now. And so having those two, having a combination between a nice possession receiver and a good receiver that can kind of take the top off, really helped Carson out and gave him a little bit of pause.
Yeah, and as an old quarterback, Jeff, what I was most impressed with Carson was when that back leg hits and he plants, that ball's coming out. And it just seemed like as the season went on, that ball would just explode and come out, and the timing seemed to get better and better. And watching the tape, that's what impressed me the most, was that ball came out so fast. So even if you tried to pressure or get a pass rush, which a lot of teams tried to do in the playoffs, Carson was so good at getting rid of that football.
Now, Darion, I know we got somebody down on the turf that we wanted to talk to, Janae McCall-Boyd, and we know Jonathan McCall and Jackson McCall, the two defensive backs from Snyder. Jonathan's going to be going to the University of Cumberland's in Kentucky, I believe, to play some really good NAIA football. But
school.
Janae is the owner of More Than Athletics, and they've partnered up with Traction AP. So let's hear a little bit more about that.
I will be.
Yeah.
So I have Miss McCullough down here, and like you mentioned, it was a great introduction. She has her new business, and we're going to be talking about that a little bit here. So just starting off, so if you want to give us the name of your business, let us know what it is that you guys are doing. Tell me about yourself. The business is More Than Athletics, and what made you decide to start this company?
Well, like you said, it is More Than Athletics, and that name was intentional because I want student athletes, to know that they are more than athletics. And what inspired it, I just went through this process with my oldest son, Jonathan, or most people know him as Johnny Mac here in the city. And I quickly realized that it was an area that myself and not many other families understood. Recruiting, yes, you want to find the best fit for your child because that's the ultimate goal, but it's also a business and emotional process. So really going through the process with him and talking to other families really inspired it.
And I think that's definitely a niche that we need to have covered in the city. Being around sports for so long, we haven't had that covered. So I'm excited to see that you're willing to do that. So if you want to give us a little bit of a detail about what kind of services that you provide.
Well, first, we create an academic and recruiting game plan for active families. That is our focus. And that means we look at the student athletes' transcripts and follow their journey through their high school career to make sure that they're eligible at the NAIA level and at the NCAA level. And then also, we manage the recruiting process. So we target initially 65, 70 schools, and it depends on what level of play, because the biggest thing thing is, can you play at the next level? Has a high school coach told you can play? Has a trainer told you can play, a club coach? And are you passionate about playing for another 4 years? Those are the biggest things. So as we go through that, we'll target camps like this today, and make sure you get the proper film, and just lay out that journey, the academic and the recruiting side.
Something you touched on I think is really important. A lot of these kids really don't realize that is the difference between NCAA and NAIA and how the scholarships work and whether you can get a full ride. Being a product of an NAIA scholarship, I understand that well. So how do your services work with the high school coaches and the counselors? What do you guys do as far as garnering relationships with them?
Well, first of all, it is truly a partnership. I am not in competition with the high school coaches or the high school counselors. I am just an added resource for the student athlete. The high school coaches and the high school counselors are really taxed, and they have lots of students. The average is like 400 to 500 students for one high school counselor. So what I provide is very individualized, personalized training, because everybody's situation is different. And so that is really my focus. I'm another resource and another advocate.
And that training is more so with the parents than the kids, don't you think?
Well, it's for everybody as well.
So what are some of the issues that you're hearing from parents that have that student athletes are going through as far as the recruiting process?
Well, first thing is they just don't know how the process works, just navigating. And then I've heard stories of, you get to your senior year and you find out you're 1 or 2 classes short of navigating, trying to be eligible for the NAIA or the NCAA. Those are probably the biggest things that I'm hearing, and just the financial process of it all. So
last question, do you only service specific sports and only athletes?
That is, no, I focus on everybody. My focus is student athletes because that will probably be the bulk of my services. But I am going to service any college-bound student, and the methods that I have will apply to any sport. So, yes.
So do you want to tell us again what the company is called and how they can reach you?
It is called More Than Athletics, and so you can go out to our website, morethanathletics.com, and reach me there, and I'm happy to do a quick chat with you to talk about our services or an initial consultation, or you can follow us on social media at MT Athletics LLC or More Than Athletics LLC.
Well, thank you very much. Jeff, do you have any questions while I have her?
Yeah, Darian, just real quick, if she could just kind of go over the process that she and Jonathan went through, this past year, because he was being quoted by a lot of schools. Indiana Wesleyan was one. He ended up at Cumberland's. But what was that like for her?
So Jeff wants to know if you can give us a little bit insight on what the process was for your son, knowing that he had several different schools on the table, going through the process of picking one. So what was that like?
So for Jonathan, he had 3 goals in mind. He wanted to focus on criminal justice, law enforcement. He also wanted a school that was very diverse, and he wanted to pick an athletic program that was very dominant in their conference. Also, he wanted to do ROTC, so that kind of threw a wrench in it. And so I told Jonathan, okay, academics come first, number one. And so we targeted schools that had his major in his program, along with the ROTC. And then I'm like, okay, we're just going to find somewhere where you can play. And once we accomplish that goal, then we just hit the ball, pulled up our bootstraps and went running. And so then the offers started coming in, and, as you know, once one conference starts looking at you, here comes the rest. And so that was a very manual process for us. We're just trying to navigate the process. And so during that time, when I decided that I was going to do the business, I had training in December, an 11-part series that actually I was like, I was doing this, but it took me 10 times longer. So now I have, the backing, the efficiency, and can help a whole lot more students. And then I'm going through the process with Jackson. And so he's going to get the benefit of all the bumps and bruises that I went through with Jonathan. So
one of the things I think is really important that you mentioned is having a plan going in, knowing what the kid wants to do as far as his education is concerned. I think sometimes with us, we get so caught up in what they want to do athletically that we tend to forget about the academic side. How important is it to have that whole comprehensive understanding of the student athlete himself going into making those types of decisions?
That is absolutely number one. I mean, the higher your GPA is, the grades, the more opportunity you can have. Because that is the number one thing that college coaches ask right off the bat. GPA. Can I look at your transcript? Because they know that they cannot go to bat for you at admissions if you have a very low GPA. So that's number one. That gets your foot in the door along with your talent. And then I will also say what really seals the deal with signing that letter of intent is your character and that relationship that you form with coaches. So the mixture of that, it's some art, it's some science to it, but as long as kids put their best foot forward, there's somewhere out there for them to play.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your time, Jeff. Do you have any other questions for Ms. McCullough while we have her here?
Nope, that's it. But I'm sure you guys are more than happy to have her on board and being a partner with Traction AP.
She is a great resource. When she came up with the idea, we knew it was something where we thought we could have done a better job in. But, of course, we get so caught up in the whole athletic skill set side of it. This thing is definitely something that needs to happen. So more than athletics, please get in touch. I think it's a service that we all need if your kid wants to play on the next level beyond high school.
Absolutely. Well,
thank you.
Darian, we're looking at the QBs right now, and I know Deuce is down there with his dad, Antoine, working with the QBs. Deuce is signed to go to Morgan State to be a Golden Bear, so hopefully we'll get to hear from him in a little bit. But, Joe, what are you seeing from these QBs right here? They're just getting their arms warmed up.
Getting their arms warmed up and really learning how to turn those hips and throw that football. It's funny, some of those drills never change. We did those drills back when I played. But really that ability to get those shoulders around, throw that football. If you watch right now, when you have to throw the ball on the run, it's so important to get that shoulder pointed at your target. So that's really what Antoine and Deuce are teaching right now. But look at the ball come out of some of these kids' hands. I mean, you can see some talent down here, Jeff, when that ball really comes out.
And you were saying during the season how just refined, just how skilled Deuce was as a QB. You said he was one of the most polished quarterbacks that you'd seen at the high school level.
And you could tell that what I like what Traction does with the kids, they take the time with the tape too. Deuce really had watched a lot of tape, and between that and his ability to climb the pocket, Deuce was always in a throwing position, Jeff, in the pocket. And that was something for me that took me many years really to be able to grasp. And Deuce was so taught well. And I tell you what, I know Morgan State is a great school, but I tell you, Purdue and IU really missed the boat on him because I'm telling you, when Deuce develops his man body and his pocket skills and that ability to always be in a throwing position, he is going to be dominant at Morgan State. And I think, you know, some of his best football is still coming in the future, Jeff, because when he develops those lower body, he's going to be so good.
And Darian's got Deuce down on the field right now.
So we got Deuce Taylor here. Of course, we just had a great introduction there, just kind of detailing a little bit of what Deuce's path has been to get to Morgan State University. So no better person to tell us a little bit about that than Deuce himself. So Deuce, if you want to just tell us, what was that path like for you? Let's start with your season last year, because you ended in the top of the state as far as quarterbacks are concerned. So we can start with your season and then tell us a little bit about the recruiting process.
So for my season last year, you know, I feel like I wouldn't have that season without Jai Wright and Peter Morrison. Throughout all quarantine from March all the way to August, me, Peter, and Jaya were training every morning, just putting in work, and those guys were just pushing me to be better than them. And so they've been helping me out with a lot of stuff since I was young, but just them coming back and working with me just to make sure I'm working my tail off, it meant a lot.
And one thing that's really important about that is you talk about how former players are coming back and helping you out with your process to get to where they are. And that's also something that you do. So I know personally my son's being a sixth grader on our middle school team, you've been a personal help for him, which I definitely appreciate. And it's just giving him so much confidence in being able to see you do it on Friday nights and then have you show him how to do that. How important is that mentor-mentee factor?
I feel like it's very important because as a younger kid, seeing someone that looks like you and plays the same position as you, seeing them be able to do what you want to accomplish is just a whole other thing when they show belief in you. So just like guys like Jesse and Jalen, those guys just showing belief in me and telling me that they know I can do it just takes my confidence to a whole nother level.
So now let's talk about Morgan State. So that's a unique decision, right? So most people are thinking Purdue's and IU's, Ball State's and Notre Dame's. Morgan State, how did you come to that decision?
So I had my eyes on some bigger schools just because, you know, everyone wants to dream big. But as I started going through the process, you start to see, like, how the business side of the recruiting comes out. And so you have to treat yourself as a business, and you want to put yourself in the best position that you can be in. And so Morgan State just offered me the chance to play early and the degree that I need to, be successful in life. So
if I could jump in, I'm going to jump in if you don't mind. What it reminds me of is when I came out of school, there was a guy who went to a small school in kind of the quarterback class that I came out in. His name was Steve Mcnair. And Steve Mcnair went and played for Alcorn State. And I can remember thinking, why would he play for Alcorn State when he could have played for Tennessee, Auburn, or LSU? And it was the perfect fit for Steve Mcnair. And Steve Mcnair really was able to develop the size and work on his game. And that really kind of reminded me of your situation when you made that choice. And I think it's a great choice. And I want to tell you, I'm so excited to see what you're going to do in the future because of all the high school quarterbacks I've ever seen in this area in all my years, and I'm going to date myself a little bit, Jeff. This goes back to the 1980s. You have the best skill set and the best ability I have ever seen. So I'm excited. And if I remember, Morgan State, Tyron Wheely's the head coach out there, isn't he? Out at Morgan State. So I think
Tyron Wheely,
unbelievable.
Head coach out there at Morgan State. Talk a little bit about Tyron Wheely. How was he involved in that recruiting process?
So Coach Wheely, the way I came across Coach Wheely was at a camp. For some reason, I just had a feeling I should go early the day before. So I went to the camp the day before with the younger guys, and I seen one of my guys that are like family up there, and he's like, so what's going on? What are you going to do? And so I told him the school that I was committed to, and he's like, I didn't know you wanted to go that route. So he's like, let me make one call. He made one call, got me on the phone with Coach Wheely, and Coach Wheely just said, just by the way I was talking, my maturity, he can just tell, I would be a guy that he would like. So he just told me to send my film, and I sent my film, and that Thursday we got back, and he called me and offered me. And so just since he offered me, you could just tell that he's been like family, and he reminds me of my dad a lot. And so I just know, I'm in good hands going there.
So you mentioned your dad, which is a unique situation. I feel kind of similar to you since I'm a coach and my son's starting in the program. Your dad is obviously the quarterback guru here at Traction Athletic Performance, and you've grown up under his tutelage, obviously, since you've been born. How important was the relationship between you and your dad with him being the coach for this whole thing? And then also, what were some of the difficulties? Because I've been around where it wasn't always easy.
So just with me and my dad, I've been around quarterbacks since I was 3 years old. And so I've been learning the game for a super long time. And so, me and him will bump heads here and there, and that would be, the difficulties that we go through. I think I know everything. He knows a lot, and I'll just bump heads with him, and I'll do that. But just the positivity from it is, just having that person in the house that's been through that, and he knows the process. It just made it so much more easier to keep my head on straight and know that I don't have to worry about if I'm going to play college ball or not, that I know I can get it done.
Excellent. One last question. I saw a news story the other day. I actually happened to be driving by and saw you guys filming it and stopped and said hi to you. So I had a little bit of insight, knew it was coming, but I had a chance to watch it the other day, and it talks about one of your best friends, Nick Scroggins, and the promises that you kept to him, and now you felt like you're fulfilling that promise. If you want to just talk about that a little bit before we let you go.
So when Nick passed in 2016, when I seen his body in the casket, it just really was like an eye-opener to me that, life is very precious and you only get it once. So I made a promise to him that I would go to the NFL and I'm going to play college football. And that was just a dream that we had together. So that story was really just motivated by me completing a step in that journey and trying to move on to the next.
So one step down, right? All right.
Well, an outstanding interview there, Joe. And
I'm telling you, nobody was more skilled, Jeff. I mean, I've seen so much quarterback, and, it took me forever to get to Cincinnati to be able to climb the pocket and be able to have that skill set. He already has the skill set. When he develops the man body, I was really disappointed that Purdue and Cincinnati and some of the schools didn't grab him, but I understand why he wants to go to Morgan State. And I think that if he has a program like that to really work on his skill set, and I don't want to put any more pressure on him, Jeff, but there's no reason in 4 or 5 years now that we don't, wake up on an NFL draft and see a third or fourth round pick with him. I mean, he's got all the intangibles and all the ability. And I can't say enough about his father. Nobody's better at the quarterback position, understanding and coaching it, than his father. And I just was so blown away by how Deuce developed in his high school career, Jeff.
Yeah, and I was talking with Antoine about 2 weeks ago about that process, and he was telling me how important it is that when these coaches get the kids in front of the whiteboard there, that they're able to break things down and be able to recognize.
And that was such a struggle for me when I got to, I went out to junior college and was a junior college All-American. I got to Cincinnati. It was such a struggle to absorb that playbook and to understand all the, everything that's going on that whiteboard and getting the play off and understand the defenses and all that. I just feel like Deuce is so far ahead with that, Jeff. And I feel like not only Deuce, but some of the other traction kids and some of these great high school coaches. I think Chad Zolman really has done a great job. I feel like our kids are so much better prepared to play at that high level, Jeff, than maybe what it was maybe 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like it's an all-year thing now with these guys in the training, and you've seen how much Traction AP has grown here just in the last 2 years, formerly AWP, and they made a big name for themselves.
Sure.
But, Darion, can you speak to that a little bit? Antoine Taylor was telling me how Traction AP's actually growing their services outside of the Fort Wayne area.
Yeah, so there's some talks right now about basically creating some type of a cookie cutter format where we can take the show on the road. Of course, what we do is a little bit unique to the people that we have involved, so we would have to be able to recreate the same type of culture that we've been able to create here over time, which we don't think will be a problem, but it's basically all hinged on integrity and what your goal is as far as these athletes are concerned. We have always focused on making these kids better people first, and then we'll make them better athletes. We use football as a vehicle to give them tools that they can use in life, in practical reality,
sure,
and not just things that they can take on to be better athletes, because there's so much more to being a good athlete than there's just skill. I mean, you have talent, you have skill. One thing that you guys touched on, which I thought was a really big factor as far as an athlete is that learning curve. You talked about that playbook and going to college, and sometimes you get in some systems where the playbook it looks like an encyclopedia, and it could be overwhelming at times. And I know as far as I'm concerned, my personal story, I didn't play football growing up until high school. So I grew up in Chicago, and the park systems were responsible for football, and I had to walk through some unsavory territories to get to the football field, but basketball and baseball are right across the street, so I just played that. So when I moved here my freshman year from Chicago to Fort Wayne and started playing football, I had to have guys show me how to put a helmet on, how to put pads in pants, And so you have to think the learning curve at that point is just so steep. So you don't want to have to be learning some of the basics and be trying to learn it on an advanced level at the same time. So one of the things that we try to do is at least make sure you have a good foundational IQ of the sport before you go on to the next level. And so we're starting to put kids more in the classroom, do a lot more talk, reaching out to different coordinators around the city to get ideas about different, systems that are new, some systems that are old, what you'll see in college, and so that these kids have a better awareness of all that before they go off to school.
Darion, you got the wide receivers right to your left. We don't have the numbers up here currently, but just go through some of the guys that you see in that group. Impressive-looking group. One of the guys I think just went through the line there was Braden Steely. We talked about him last year out of Carroll High School. Man, he was impressive. And then last year to see he got on the field as, I believe, a sophomore or freshman as a DB. I mean, he's a tough kid.
He is a very tough kid. I mean, he's a no-nonsense type of kid. He's very serious all the time. When he does laugh, he laughs, but for the most part, if it's in a competitive environment, he's all seriousness, no smiles. And so you can kind of see him cheesing now, but I think a little bit later, once we get into competition, you'll see that smile go away. But it was really exciting to see him play this year as being so young as a sophomore. Not surprising to us. We know what kind of character he has and his will to get better, and he's just always gotten better. He's one of the first kids in the gym, one of the last to leave. I know you hear that about a lot of great players, but that's because it's no accident. Some of the other kids that you can see in this line here, you've got Ryland Crawford that's getting ready to come up here, going next. His name's been mentioned before. Leo High School, he's going to be a senior next year. 6'3", got good hands. You see him squeeze the ball there. Here's Brody Glenn. Brody Glenn was also mentioned earlier. Lewis High School was all-state receiver. There's Coverstone. Coverstone was out at Carroll. Was also a really good receiver there with Jeffrey Becker. It was very exciting to see that group last year, I'll tell you that much.
Do you think that Crawford will play wide receiver on the next level, Darren, or will he play defensive back, in your opinion?
In my personal opinion, I think he'll be on the defensive side of the ball. I think his size and what's particular about Ryland is being able to transition from offense to defense in that fashion. He's carrying over the same great ball skills that you're going to need as a receiver.
Sure.
And you use that on defense, and now you can get a Jesse Bates type of safety that can range the field, that understands how to read the ball in the air and create turnovers. And I think right now, in the type of football that you're seeing more and more, is to spread them out, throw the ball around, moving quarterbacks in and out of pockets. And so being able to have safeties that can stay in coverage and cover a lot of space is a premium nowadays. And so a lot of times and more and more you're starting to see them convert these offensive guys over to defensive players. So I think on the next level he may have the most upside on the defensive side of the ball for those reasons.
I agree with you, because we had him against New Haven, Jeff and I did, and we had him against Northridge. And he was a weapon on offense, don't get me wrong, but he dominated on the defensive end. And you're absolutely right. When he was in the middle of the field with his size and his ball hawking skills, he was just a difference maker, wasn't he, Jeff?
Yeah, and Darion, another name here. I'm not sure if this is his dad signing him up, but Contrail Johnson and the athletes from Concordia. But I remember him when I was growing up. He played at Lane and Snyder. He was a heck of an athlete. Is his son down there?
I'm not sure. I'll have to get the list here so we can start matching the names up with these numbers.
Okay, but yeah, another one, 6'3", 185 pounds. I mean, Joe, and we've seen it throughout the recruiting process here, but there has been a lot of big, just some really, I don't want to say big time, guys going big time, but just some big time players, and a lot of them playing college ball just out of the SAC.
And I want to give so much credit to the Traction AP. When we sat up there and did the games this last fall, it seemed like every time we got an update with the kid, it was a Traction AP kid. But I think the combination of the Traction AP and embracing that, along with, we have some really good high school football coaches in this area. I mentioned Chad Zolman. I have a lot of respect for what Chad's doing out there, but that combination is really helping these kids. And I think the football too is so much better in this area, Jeff, than what it's been the last 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah, no, we had a fun season this year. We got the wide receivers that we're looking at right now. Now, just beyond the wide receivers are the defensive backs. And a lot of those guys can go both ways. When you look at Jackson Mccall, who was a starting defensive back but also can play receiver. We talked about Steely and Ryland Crawford. But we'll get a look at the DBs down there. And once again, we had some good DBs out of the Summit Athletic Conference this year. One of those from Northside High School. He'll be going to the University of Indianapolis. I mean,
McCarter,
Arion McCarter. But Northside, man, they put together a fun season this year.
They did. They had a lot of good players, and I tell you, Lambert's going to Findlay, and he was awesome. I'd leave him at offensive tackle. But some of those DBs down there, I want to get some of the comments that he has. Keep an eye on the kid. I keep going over him. Austin Keyser, I'm telling you. 37-inch vertical leap, and there was a video floating around where he ran that post route and did that front flip and caught that football. But I'm telling you, he's running a 4.59 40, but the second half of the 40's slower. I mean, when have you ever heard that? And I said, Austin, if you could just level out, I'm telling you, stupid athletic. He's going to end up probably being about 5'11". If he can get his size up to 180, 185, I know we're hearing so much about Nate Anderson, the wide receiver. He is under the radar, in my opinion. I think he is a tremendous up-and-coming prospect, and he was number one in tackles for corners in 6A football as a junior. So I'd like to talk a little bit about him because he just seems like he's just coming on.
Yeah, and Nate Anderson, I believe he just got offered by Western Michigan, but the MAC schools are high on him. Had a big junior year over there at Homestead.
Yeah, and I'm telling you what, Nate Anderson had a huge year, but he's having, I tell you what, I really like Austin Keyser, 37-inch vertical leap, and I really am excited about his talent.
Yeah, Darion's got Austin down on the field right now, so we'll give it to Darion.
All right, if you want to give us your name, what school you go to, what position you play.
Hi, I'm Austin Keyser, and I go to Homestead High School, and I'm a corner.
Well, we already knew who you were. That's why I grabbed you. But the guys upstairs were just talking about, of course, the season that you had last year, what they're expecting expectations for you are going into next year, and then also what you've been able to do athletically as far as your numbers. You want to talk to us a little bit about your 40 time? We have a guy upstairs who tends to think you could get a little bit faster.
Yeah, I didn't have some great 40s at the camps, but I can definitely get it faster.
Yeah, you can. You ran a 4.59, but the problem is the back half of the 40 slower. It's Joe Walburn up here. Also, the cone drills. He is fantastic in the cone drills. 37-inch vertical leap. I about fell out of my chair when I saw the post route that he did the front flip and caught the football. But he also, something too as far as game film, he played his best game against Westfield. Right. So I'm telling you, this is a kid that if I'm Mac Schools, I'm all over this kid because this kid's an up-and-coming player. And I don't think Austin really has come on and figured out how good that he can be.
So there was some sort of backflip that you did. You want to talk about that? I guess it went viral.
Yeah, I got a backflip on overtime this year, and that made me feel good, and my athletic skills are definitely good.
And so we tend to think you can get a little bit better in that area. What are you planning on doing in the offseason to get a little bit better athletically?
I'm just training with track and running, doing all that I can do. I'm doing track this season, everything I can do to get more athletically inclined.
So we think that you can have a really good season here. What do you think your school looks like going into the season coming up, and how do you think you're going to fit in with that team?
Well, our team's going to be great. We're going to do really good stuff, and leadership on that team's great, and the coaching staff is good, so that's what we're going to do.
Well, we're going to let you get back involved there. See, we're splitting up here. They got position splitting. They're going to get into some competition a little bit later. Right now, we're going to stay with individual positions and some skill work. It's a different angle.
He's a great kid. He's a 3.5 student, and I call it the University of Homestead because I went to Southside, and that definitely wasn't Homestead, Jeff Mahoney. But he's a great kid. He's got the grade point average, and he was a special teams demon last year if you put the tape on. And also what I like about his game is as a corner, he can play corner. He's extremely physical. He can play the Spartan position, and what a lot of college coaches need, and you talked about this with the open offenses, you need that kid on defense that can cover the inside slot, and he has that quickness and that ability and the ability to shift to play that position. So I think he's a kid really to watch this next year. He's a big-time up-and-coming prospect, and I'm curious to see, some of the schools that Chad talks to for him and where he ends up, Jeff.
And Darion's down on the field right now chatting it up with Lawrence Barnett, who is basically the head defensive backs coach over at Traction. But Darion, can you get a quick word from LB?
Yeah, so I got Coach LB down here. LB is our resident fireball coach. For some of us older guys, we tend to get a little dull over time, and he makes sure that we stay sharp. So he's responsible for a lot of the work that you see with our defensive side of the ball, DBs, linebackers, safeties, that kind of thing. He's been doing a lot of work with some pro athletes and some college athletes. LB, you want to give us a little insight to your program, what it is that you do?
Yeah. So, like you said, Coach LB, I coach all the linebackers, corners, sometimes running backs too a little bit. But, for me, it's all about, like we talked about, building a competitive environment, making sure people get, the realistic picture of what it is going to be at, on the next level. I think a lot of times sometimes we get a little lax and we try to act like there's not a reality of a lot of extra discipline or extra prioritizing time management and all that stuff that we're going to have to see when we get to college. So I just try to make sure we install that into these kids and also into their training, and then also just make sure they're mentally prepared as well, too, because I think a lot of times, that's something that we forget. We forget that these kids need a lot of character development, need a lot of human development, need a lot of just positivity in their lives. So that's something that I make sure I instill in training as well.
And so we talked a little bit earlier with Ms. McCullough about modern athletics and the services that she's going to provide. And we talked about how here at Traction, just like you said, we felt like we wanted to do a better job in the stuff that the kids are responsible for off the field. So if you can talk a little bit about some of those services that we offer. I know we have mental performance with Donovan and what that looks like as far as the athlete off the field.
Yeah. So the athlete off the field, we got a lot of community service stuff going on that's led by Jess and Jess Odenweller and myself helping out a little bit. But as far as off the court, off the field with MTA, just that education, understanding the recruiting process, understanding that, there are some measurables that have to go into place. I heard Ms. McCullough talking earlier about GPAs, and that's in the classroom. But for us, we got to know, wingspan, how tall a kid is, how fast he can run, how fast he can jump. So we try to tie all that in, which is our process here. You know, you got the GPA stuff, MTA on the side, and then you got us who are trying to tell people, guide them in the right direction based off of measurables and based off of what we see, how they move and their ceilings, you know. So, you know, just not the training aspect is also the things that can help kids understand the process to get to college.
Hey, Darion, I just got to know real quick, where does LB get the inspiration for some of his workouts? I see him doing some of the wildest stuff in the gym.
So Jeff wants to know what your inspiration is behind some of your workouts. He's seen some of the wildest, most unique stuff in the gym when he's watched some of your workouts.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just building on what I learned. I mean, you always got to be innovative. You know, for me, it's always, you can always use a band or something to lift. You can always use different things to balance on when you lift. So for me, it's just being creative and then also understanding the body, though. You know, once you understand different muscle groups, different movements, you know, it's easier to get out there and do certain things that are going to help you also be able, you know, to look good, but then also be able to excel on the field. So for me, sometimes I got to get out there and get against these athletes. They still think I'm soft, so I got to get out there and compete. So I got to do all the workouts they're doing so I can make sure I'm equipped and ready to go when I do get that opportunity, or I give them that opportunity to go against me. So, but for that, I mean, it's just me just learning, constantly learning every day, constantly, you know, just watching other people do things and then creating my own. You know, it's just building every day, really.
LB, Joe Walburn here. I want to give you an ultimate compliment. What you've done with these kids with the ability to backpedal, the ability to drop the hips, and close down on routes with these defensive backs. I saw it all season long in high school football, and I just want to give you all the credit in the world. What you're teaching these kids, the skill level, you talked about balance, that's everything. But watching these kids, you know, come out of a back pedal, close on a ball, you know, I noticed that so much with the kid we just interviewed, Austin Keyser, but you've done such a good job, you know, with the back pedal and with the defensive backs out here.
And so I guess you could talk a little bit about that. I know I've seen you train a wide range of kids from middle school to professional athletes. How do you craft the approach to make it unique to the skill set of the individual that you're training?
Yeah, so obviously you got to understand, like you said, there's different levels, you know. And for a pro, you know, they're still doing the same thing that these younger levels are doing, but probably just a lot more maintenance, a little bit more just tuning up. It could be a little bit more fast-paced just because they understand certain things. But when you're on a lower level, it's like, you know, it's just like when you have a baby. I don't have any kids, but once you teach a kid from crawling to walking, you know, it's steps that you have to take before you could just throw them out there into a drill. I think a lot of times, you know, we see a lot of trainers just go out there and drill. But you got to teach a kid how to crawl and walk before he can even run. So for me, that's just how it is. You know, I've built programs that you know, understand the players and then also what their body is feeling like at the time. You know, like I can work with Jesse Bates and he can come in and be like, you know, I feel strong. I'm at a good weight right now. You know, I just want to maintain. So I got a program, you know, I have a program built for that. But then also it could be a situation like he wanted last year where, you know, hey, bro, I'm 198 pounds. I'm trying to be 210 by the time of the season. All right, now we're going straight mass building program and then a lot of explosion work, so he can still gain weight but be used to be, you know, still be explosive with extra weight on him. So you know, it's just like I said before, it's just being in it for a long time and learning different things and also just learning every day. So it's a process, and you know, everybody has a different process in it.
Well, thanks a lot for everything you do for this program, man. Like Coach upstairs was saying, everything we see with your athletes out on the field is just the results speak for themselves. And so obviously when you're moving on to dealing with pro players, it's undeniable. So thanks for everything, man.
Yeah, and Joe is a coach. He's got a Pee-wee team that plays on the Saturdays in Columbia City.
That's right, man. I do a little JFL, coach a little Pee-wee, but I can sit up in the press box and eat the hot dogs in the fall and do the color of the games. But I tell you what, I can also recognize when kids are very well coached, and LB's doing a great job. And it's kind of, you know, it just kind of seems appropriate seeing this is the home of Rod Woodson, you know what I mean? Yeah. You know, so this is a guy who's probably one of the best defensive back coaches out there. But you can see it in the kids, Jeff. You can see how a kid backpedals and how he can get out of that backpedal and how he can close down those routes, and they're really well skilled.
Well, and Joe, that's why, I had to talk to LB about just how he changes up his training so much for these young guys. For the longest time, you had to be focused on one sport. That's why I loved it when Austin Keyser was like, yeah, I'm running track right now.
Exactly.
To build on different muscles, different skills. Looks like Darion's got another interview for us down there.
So I got our one of our favorite players down here. We call him Two-Man, but I'll let him introduce himself. You want to give us your name, where you play, and what grade you're in?
I'm Drew Johnson. I play over at Van Wert High School, and I'm a senior.
So Drew travels all the way here from Ohio. He's been with this program for a few years now, and he has a very unique story. So last year we were in practice right here in this very building, and he was injured. So if you want to talk to us a little bit about your injury, what you had to overcome to get prepared for the season, and then what happened during that season.
So basically, tried to break up on a dig route, collided heads with somebody, had a misplaced cheekbone. My cheekbone was all the way down to my cheek, actually. Multiple bones broken around my eye, many stitches needed. So I had to have facial reconstruction surgery. And then I didn't know if I was going to play football again. Decided to keep pushing. The beginning of my senior year, I said, okay, we're going to play. Through a lot of work and through a lot of pain, I was able to begin playing. And then after that, we ended up going 11-1, and we won the state championship B4.
So through injury and all, adversity, ups and downs, not sure if you were going to play again, to go back to playing strength, to be confident enough to go out there again, knowing you're risking injury, and to have yourself win a state title at the end of that. Explain what that process was like, the good times, the bad times, and then what getting a ring at the end of it is like.
So it all starts, with the bad times. Obviously, it's not something that you want to have happen to you. 7-on-7, the last 7-on-7 tournaments you think you're going to be able to play, all this stuff, it's gone. So, the only way I was able to get through it, is God. Being able to, all I could do was sit there and pray. I couldn't go out and let my anger loose on football or anything like that. I just had to pray and hope that he would bring me through it, and he definitely did. And then just being able to play again is a blessing. Being able to play the way I did through with no pain near the end of the year, and then just being able to go out and win a state championship, man, it's the thing of dreams.
That's excellent. You looking at anything for the next level yet?
I committed to Ashland University D2 over in Ohio, ready to get things started over there.
So talk to us a little bit about that recruiting process. So you break your face, basically, right? And then you get ready to play again. You have a good season. You go to a state title. You win it. And then you get an offer to go play college. What was the recruiting process like? Did you ever have to question whether you wanted to continue on and keep playing? Was that part of the process in your thinking?
Oh, definitely. Especially not knowing if I was going to play at all anymore. Wondering if I still had the love for it. So after the face break. So I didn't start the recruitment as trying to get recruited as early as possible because I didn't think I wanted to play. Mm-hmm. Then once I fell back in love with it after getting through my injuries, I said, hey, this is something that I need to do. So the recruiting process was difficult because we came in it so late. But, I had good film, especially the state championship run that obviously helped me a lot. And by the end, I had a couple good choices, really good choices, and I was able to choose the one that I think is the college of my dreams now. So,
well, we're definitely proud of you. Jeff, you have any questions for Drew while we have him?
Could I say something real quick?
Yes, absolutely.
Ashland's a great school, and congratulations. This is Joe Walburn. I do the color for the high school football, but I want to tell you something. You're a winner. And no matter where it's Ashland or wherever you do in the rest of your life, you're a winner because you know what? You stared adversity in the face and you overcame it. And that was a serious amount of adversity. And I tell you, that's what these sports are all about. But congratulations. And I tell you what, Ashland is a great school to play your college ball at.
Yes, sir, I know it.
He said he knows it.
That's right. Looking forward to seeing it.
Absolutely. We talk about grit and toughness. Any coach is going to want to have a man like that in his locker room. Body language in the locker room is I don't want to say it's sensitive, but
Sure.
there's so many things that can distract the locker room. Having a strong, great personality like that is only going to help a football team.
That's a great point. And the guys can look around the locker room and look at what he went through with the injury and still have the guts to come out and to put the helmet on and suit up and play. It says so much about the kid's character. But you're right. That's a guy you want in your locker room. That's a guy you want in your team because he's a winner. And Ashland's a great school. And, man, Ashland got a good one there, Jeff.
Hey, it looks like Darion's got another interview for us on the far sideline. So, and we just got Jess Ottmuller just came in to say hi.
Hi there.
We heard about her. She's doing a lot of work with Traction AP and their community development. And then Ottmuller Company was a great sponsor of Summit City Sports, along with Walburn Financial, Joe. So you know we love you and always appreciate you. But back down to Darion on the field.
So I have another athlete here. I wanted to give him a little bit of highlighting. So if you want to tell us your name, what school you go to, and what grade you're in, and what position you play.
I'm Albert Kunikis, to go to Lamont High School. I'm a running back / wide receiver. I'm a junior as well. And some of my influences, NFL level, are Shaquem Griffin, the Seattle Seahawks outside linebacker. I've been watching him since he went to college at UCF, and he's a savage. I like watching him get all those sacks, big plays, everything. And I also just like watching the NFL every Sunday, like seeing my favorite players, Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara. Amazing.
So tell us a little bit why Griffin is one of your favorite players, if nobody can notice yet.
He's got half an arm like me. He's born like the same condition. It's kind of cool to like see him excel, you know.
So how is it overcoming that in sports? I mean, so many of us have so many excuses, and we don't have anything that's holding us back. And some people look at something like that and go, that's motivation for you to be even better. So how do you see it? Do you see it as being a hindrance, or do you see it as being an extra motivation?
Extra motivation for sure. I want to work harder than everyone and be better, be the best. You know, it's better like that. You know, it's more fun.
So how is working out, bench pressing, doing things like that, having to be able to tackle? So you say you play running back, being able to put the ball, you know, most running backs are taught put the ball on the other away from the inside of the field, put it on the sideline. So how does all that work? How are the adjustments for you?
I just got to adjust to everything. Like for bench press, for example, like you listed, I have a prosthetic arm that I use, and it helps a lot because full range of motion. It's like a regular arm, but like obviously robotic or whatever. Yep. Run back wise, I only switch the ball to this arm only if I'm on the right sideline, because I could like try to go for a stiff arm or some shit. It's easy to throw fuckers. It's fun, you know. So, yeah.
Hey, so you have no setbacks then. You're still stiff arming boys and everything. Jeff, you got any questions for him while we have him here?
If I could say something though, real quick, Jeff. I tell you what's going to be beautiful about your life is everybody's going to underestimate you your whole life, and you're going to enjoy your life shocking people and showing people what you can do. So that's awesome, brother.
Yeah, and there's football things that you can do to get better. What's he doing outside of like your normal football training to get himself better?
Me and my friends, like a group of us, like there's 3 or 4 of us. We go to our like local gym, and we go every Saturday, Sunday for like 3-4 hours. Just to get some extra like weightlifting and stuff like that. And sometimes we hit the field after to get some like footwork and speed, catching, and because that's all important. So yeah.
And how important is it for you to be able to come out here and get some exposure, being able to put your skills up against everybody else's skills out here? And so college coaches out there can take a look at it, and they don't see it as being any kind of hindrance, that you can perform and do everything just as well as anybody else.
It's fun. I love it. Like I love competing, and I just love coming out here. I like competing against everyone and proving that I can be the best if I go off. You know?
That's right. Go show it off, man. We're glad you're here. Definitely.
Yeah, great interview right there. And, Joe, just going back to it, it's so important to develop so many different parts of the body, like LB was talking about, the different training outside of football, the different stabilizing muscles that you wouldn't normally use if you're just doing football-specific things. That's why I think it is so important for guys like LB to do all the different kind of training that really just helps develop you overall. I mean, one of the things that I was able to do when I was in my playing days was do some martial arts and how, kind of full body workouts, swimming, different things that really help develop the different muscles that you don't normally use maybe during the course of a football season.
Absolutely, and I thought LB said it when he talked about balance. Obviously, it's so key with the footwork, and we mentioned that with Deuce. Deuce was so good with his footwork, but you're right. You have to understand your position and develop those skills and those muscles. You know, if you're going to be down in the trenches, you got to get in and do the compound movements. You got to be a weight room beast. You know, so it's the different positions you play, but you got to develop those different muscles to be able to really max that potential. And I tell you what, I'm getting excited. I'm down here watching Luke Halpert just absolutely rip off throw after throw, and I'm getting excited, man. I'm having some flashbacks to my days. I got my cowboy boots on. I like to go down and throw a few balls, Jeff. But, yeah, you're right, man. You got to be able to develop those muscles, develop those skill sets, and I think that the guys out here with Traction AP are doing that for the kids, Jeff.
Well, you know what? That's a good omen to see Luke Hopper over there. Look at that, hitting the target.
I see you, Luke. Woo!
That's nothing but
That's
net.
Right.
That's nothing but net right there.
Absolutely.
You know, last year at this time, I should say last summer, Deuce was hitting that target like it was nothing.
I'm telling you what, as far as Halpert, it's going to be interesting because, you know, I saw a lot of Snyder tape, and we did a couple games of Snyder. And I think what Snyder can do, if they can open up the offense with Luke Halpert, Jeff, throw the ball on first down, stretch the field, because he has a big-time arm.
And Darion's got Luke right now.
So I got Luke Crawford here. I'll let him introduce himself. Luke, let us know who you are, what school you go to, what position you play, and what grade you're in.
I'm Luke Cropper. I go to Fort Wayne Snyder. I'm a quarterback, and I'm a sophomore.
So we were talking a little bit, the guys upstairs were saying that we really think Snyder can open up that offense and let your skill set show a little bit more, and he's coming up next year coming up. How do you think that's going to work out with you, and what have you been doing over the offseason to be prepared for that?
You know, this past season was a real eye-opener that we can do a lot more than just run the ball, and Snyder can be a two-dimensional offense.
That's right, man. That's so true. Joe Walburn here. I played against your daddy, Brent Hopper. Your daddy played for Northrop, was a really good high school quarterback. But I watched a lot of your tape last year, and you're right, Luke. You know, you've got the arm strength and all the ability to play big-time college football. But I agree, Snyder's going to have to open up that offense. And I want you to speak a little bit, Luke, to what a difference it makes when you throw the ball on first down. No, when I played the position, when I could throw the ball on first down, it just seemed to take a lot of the pressure off. And then if you can throw the ball on first down, stretch the field, you can come back and run that football later on.
You know, that's a great point. You know, when we come out throwing the ball, you know, that kind of catches the defense off guard instead of just running the ball like a normal offense would. We would like to catch defense off guard with throwing the ball.
How'd you get your arms so strong? You know, we're up here watching you just blast the football across the field, and I tell you, Deuce has such a strong arm. And I said, your arm's right up there with them, too. What was some of the skill sets and the things that you've learned out here to really strengthen that arm of yours?
It's just taking the shoulder out by itself, isolating it, you know, just doing mental and physical shoulder movements that, you know, really release points, stuff like that.
Well, I want to tell you something. I played at Taft Junior College, and I played at the University of Cincinnati. And you have to ask your daddy, I was an old quarterback too, but your skill level is so far ahead of where I was at your age. And I think if you keep working hard and developing that, man, the sky's the limit. And I'm excited for your potential.
Hey, Darion, we've seen a lot of growth out of his older brother, Michael. He's on the cover of Indiana State's Football Guide. What's he learned from his older brother, Michael?
I mean, he's a big mentor towards me. You know, I've learned from him for all my years, and, you know, he's just a great coach growing up.
He was a winner, too. Your brother isn't the thrower, and maybe I shouldn't say it because Indiana State. I don't think your brother's the thrower at this age that you are now, but your brother, when we used to do the high school games, your brother had guts, and your brother had heart, and he's always had that, and he's always been a winner and a leader, so that's a great older brother to have, Jeff.
Absolutely. So that's Luke Hopper. We're going to let him get back to doing what he does best, and that's get back into the quarterback and drills. So he was somebody last year, Joe, I couldn't wait to see, and it was a slow start to the season there during his sophomore year. You know, being QB1 at Snyder High School is kind of like a really special thing. You know, they had Isaac Stiebling, who won a state championship back in 2000. I believe it was 15.
Sure.
But you know, as the season went on, he got more and more comfortable. And now you see some of the things that he's doing right now. I'm telling you, it's going to be a special junior year for him.
And I think it's key, you know, some of the points that you guys make. You know, the Traction AP has to almost marry some of the high school coaches, because when you think of Snyder over the years, you know, they've just been coached so well. and just that power rushing attack. But, well, then here comes a kid who can drop back and plant on his back leg, and he can throw the ball all over the field. So I know Snyder has switched up, but going to have a different offensive coordinator this year, and I think that's a good move because I think Snyder needs to throw the ball down the field more and take advantage of Halper's talent. And, it's tough sometimes because these high school coaches we have in this area, Jeff, have just been fantastic. And, I mean, we have so many high school coaches that have won state championships in this area, but, you have to grow a little bit sometimes and change what you're going to do. But I think it's exciting, and I think Snyder can really get back to being dominant with a quarterback like Halper, Jeff.
Yeah, and they'll have Tyrese Brown back next year at running back. And we're looking at some of the offensive linemen right now. We got some big boys and some really good offensive linemen in this area. Obviously, Fia Cable, he's going to IU. That lineage of offensive linemen at Bishop Dwenger. Saw Jason Fabini the other day. He said he's looking for kind of that next big talent, but they're going to be good. But over there at Leo's got Colin Butler, and they got Landon Livingston. Those guys are just road graders. I mean, they did a great job last year on the offensive line, and honestly, one of the best offensive lines in the state.
Yeah, they were awesome, and we did about 3 of their games. And what I like so much about Livingston is not only is he's huge, but he understood how to use his hands, how to get those hands locked in on the inside of those pads and then extend those arms. And I tell you what, Livingston, obviously, he was awesome in the run game, and Leo doesn't throw the ball much, but as good as he is with his feet, Jeff, at the next level, he is going to be an awesome pass protector. And he was quite an athlete when he had that. Remember that interception he had? He laid out and had the interception. But the sky's the limit. Livingston is a big-time Division I prospect.
Yeah, so we were just on the defensive line there. We got the offensive line just opposite of them. Number 156, Darion. Is that Hood from East Noble? That's a big offensive lineman there.
Yeah, it is. He's a huge kid. I'm going to grab him here for an interview after he runs through this drill. But there's several kids here that are from East Noble, which is one theme that we see a lot.
Yeah.
These guys, normally when they go out to these showcases, they like to bring other players along with them. It does several things. One, it helps them give a little bit of confidence to themselves, a little bit of sense of normalcy, having guys around you on that line. You know how cohesive those units are. So to have guys from that line come out here together with you in these showcases is a comfort thing for them. And then also, too, it gets them better as a unit. So they're getting the same skill set training, they're getting the same information given to them, and they're having to come out here and use it in reality. And they can take that back to their schools once they're done.
Well, I'll tell you what, too, over at East Noble, Rowan Zalman was one of the top prospects in Northern Indiana as well, the big 6'5" safety.
Yeah, he was awesome. We had him, and when he came back, he missed some games from injury. Then when he came back, they dominated, and East Noble was able to win that sectional over Leo when Leo beat them earlier in the year. But I'm telling you, as far as Hood, if Fabini's looking for the next great thing, I tell you what, if he looks at Hood, he's going to see himself about 25 years ago because Hood has got the size, got the strength. And I'm telling you, the biggest thing with Fabini was Fabini had great feet, Jeff, but he had to get strong. And that's what I see a lot in the prospect with Hood. I was really impressed with him last year.
And Darion's got Chris Hood down on the field.
So I'm going to let you introduce yourselves. Let us know what your name is, what school you go to, what position you play.
Chris Hood, left tackle, I go to East Noble.
And so we noticed that you had a couple other guys from East Noble here, and I talked a little bit about how that's a comfort thing for some of you guys, being cohesive unit on that offensive line. Sometimes it's comforting to have a couple guys from your school come out here to these showcases with you. Yeah. And then, too, also, you get to learn some of the skill set things that you could take back to your school together. You can talk a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, it's always good to see kids from East Noble coming out. I mean, that just shows that we're dedicated and, we want to work. And, I learn stuff that I bring back and I talk to my coach. So, it kind of helps everyone out.
So you want to talk a little bit about your season last year? You had a little bit of success over there at East Noble. How did the year end for you guys?
Well, we won sectionals and lost some regionals. It was a pretty good season for having a quarterback that, was out half the season. So, it was a pretty good season, but I'm thinking we're going to come back this year and probably go down to state again. That's the goal.
So talk a little bit about this season coming up. How do you think things like this, bringing guys with you, are going to make you better? And what are you doing in this offseason to push it past the sectional championship next year?
Well, like I said, we have two guys that come in and get better. And, that's pushing and that's making us better, and that's making us a better offensive line. So, going to make us, go past sectional and go past regional and hopefully go to state.
And Darian, if you don't mind me jumping in, if you could ask Chris Hood, what's some of the discipline, what's he doing in the weight room to get stronger? Because, I was down at Cincinnati when Jason Fabini was down there, and it took a while for Jason Fabini to really get that strength. And once he got that strength, it was all over. He played in the NFL 10 years. But what's some of the things that Chris is doing to get stronger, especially with the upper body and the ability to reach out and control guys?
Well, I know one big thing for me is definitely squat. It's something I've gotten better because it's not really about like the high weight for me. It's getting all the way down. And I've improved so much, and it just shows my flexibility. And I get so much stronger when I get all the way down.
And you mentioned something I think is really important for a lineman. How important is flexibility? I mean, how big are you? First, let us know how. I don't think they can tell how big. How big are you?
6'9".
6'9". How much you weigh?
320.
320. And
Coming
so talk a little bit about how important flexibility is. So for a kid that's 6'9", 320, how important is flexibility, and how much of it do you have?
I mean, it's huge because, like a big guy like me usually doesn't have flexibility. So when I do have flexibility, I can bend good, I can move, I have quick feet. I mean, that just makes me so good.
Impressive.
Well,
it's all about the hamstrings, man. It's all about the hamstrings, brother. And I'm going to tell you something. Fabini was 6'7", 300 pounds, and I once watched him run a 6-minute mile. It reminded me of the movie Terminator when Schwarzenegger was running through the city on the blocks. But 6'7", 300, he could run a 6-minute mile. So I tell you what, Hood reminds me a lot of a young Fabini, Jeff.
And I'll tell you what, his East Noble team went through a lot of adversity last year. And at one point in the season, heck, I think they might have had a losing record. They were right around 3-3, and then they got shut out by Leo to come back and beat Leo in the sectional championship game. So I'm excited about his team next year.
It's a great program. Coach Amstutz does such a great job up there.
So once again, Darian, we're still in individuals right now. In what part of the session do you think we're going to be coming together for some 7-on-7 and some 1-on-1 training?
I'm sorry, ask that question again, Jeff.
I'm just saying we're still in individuals right now, but pretty soon we'll be getting in 1-on-1 battles and then that 7-on-7. What's kind of the format for the rest of the day here?
So we spend the first part of obviously just working on range of motion, warming up, stretching the kids out. Then we like to put them in their individual groups, work through some skill set stuff. There was a little bit of a water break and then back to some skill set stuff. I think the plan is to go into what we call a half ball scully. So we'll do half the field. Usually it's about 3 to 4 defenders against 2 or 3 receivers. And then we'll open up to full field and do 7-on-7. So I think you're seeing a little bit of a break here in between individual sessions, and we're going to start getting into some more competitive things here soon.
And I got to tell you, it's a little silly how Hopper keeps hitting this target down here.
Guys are sticking out. Hopper looks fantastic. The ability to plant the back leg and just throw a strike with some heat. And, I mean, Hood is big as I tell you what, Hood looks as big as what he was advertised. Watching some of the skill stuff, Crawford is just an all-state kid. And watching Keyser come out of the back pedal and move, if those lateral movements for Homestead is just fantastic. So I tell you what, coming out here and seeing this, Jeff, this is the first time I've been out here. I mean, this is even more impressive than what I had anticipated, and just watching how good these kids are and how skilled and well coached they are, Jeff. It's so exciting.
Well, I'll tell you what, it gets better and better because once they get on into that one-on-one competition, you're going to see guys really battling, and we're going to see about 5 or 6 names from each position group really kind of rise above the rest. So, and we're getting ready for that here in a little bit. We're taking a quick break, and we're going to take one with them. And you are watching the Midwest Exposure Skill Camp here from the Empowered Sports Club. We'll be right back.
Many of us talk about what we want. Very few want to pay the price to get it. There's a price for everything. You pay a heavy price to be great. It's more expensive to stay the same. You get what you pay for. So focus on value. Decide your destination, drive that direction, determine your destiny.
Quit wishing and working. Quit worrying and working. Quit whining and working. Just work.
Welcome back, everybody. Looks like we're bringing the guys together. We got the skill position. It actually looks like we got O-line, D-line. We got just about everybody here closest to us. Once again, my name is Jeff Mahoney. We're bringing you the Midwest Exposure Skill Camp. It's put on by Traction AP. And I got Joe Walburn up here in the booth. He was a quarterback at the University of Cincinnati. And we both cover football games on Friday night here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. But, Joe, you were just referencing just the kind of talent that's on display right now. And, you know, it's always individuals is one thing. You get to see how guys get in and out of breaks, you know, just how fluid they are with their individual skills. But now when you go O-line versus D-line or receiver versus DB, this is where that competitive aspect comes out, and you kind of put everything together.
Yeah, you do, and you see guys compete, and that's the biggest thing you're looking at, too, on the next level for college recruiters or guys' ability to recruit. And as far as these offensive and defensive linemen, you're also looking to see who's a little bit nasty sometimes, too. But obviously we don't have the pads on, but you want to see who's got a little bit of an edge. But you're absolutely right, and when you have this much talent out here across the state competing, it's just going to get you better. And I'm going to say it again, Indiana high school football has come a long way, Jeff Mahoney. And when you look at some of those scores last year against some of those Ohio teams, we really stood up and did well. So it's a great place for high school football now, and a really fertile ground for recruiting, especially in this area.
Yeah, you just saw a great job there by the right tackle, getting his arms out and on the defensive end. And that was a great pursuit by the defensive tackle there, number 162. So it looks like he's got a Snyder shirt on underneath, and that should be no surprise. You know, Snyder had a great defensive lineman this year by the name of Ison Robinson, who just caused all kinds of havoc, and he'll be playing college football, I believe, at D2 school in Missouri.
Yeah, he was fantastic. He was good with his hands. Now watch this drill right here. Now you see as the guard, that's pretty good, but you got to get your arms extended. If you can get your arms extended and get that on the chest plate, they're not going anywhere. Now let's watch Hood. Let's see how good Hood's feet are here and see if he can extend. Okay, good. He's low, okay? And so he just went with the defender. Sometimes the defender will run themselves out of the play. That time Hood just turns with them, and that's where the quarterback, the ability to slide step in the pocket and move around is so key for them to teach that, because sometimes if a guy bull rushes you to the inside, the quarterback can just step aside on that. But that's the biggest thing with Hood is going to be upper body strength, Jeff Mahoney, and the ability to really extend on guys and use that size.
And just how important to get your arms out into the body and get them locked and extended.
Yeah, that's pretty good there. Now that time we see 166, arms are extended. That's why, you know, the squat's important for Hood, but also the bent over barbell rows, the military presses, being able to have big shoulders and big delts to control guys. So this is a really good drill because it's tough to block these guys one-on-one, especially when you have defensive linemen that are this quick, Jeff.
Now we also got wide receiver DBs going on, so let's take a look at some of these battles that we're going to see out here. Joe, we're working the left side of the field and the right side of the field here. Looks like they'll alternate.
Yeah.
So good-looking hands. Now they'll go to the top of the field.
Carson puts that ball right on the money. And that's where you got to put that out. And that's something kids have to learn as quarterbacks. That ball has to be on the out. It's got to be on the outside shoulder.
And I believe that was Coverstone there from Carroll High School on that last grab, but a beautiful catch with his hands.
Nice job getting that football out there again. These quarterbacks are well schooled. Very impressive to see the backpedaling and the ability to get out of those breaks, Jeff. That's what's so key for defensive backs is the quickness and to be able to get out of those breaks.
We got a young quarterback out there and right on the money hitting the receiver. It looks like the youngest competitor here is Hepner from Leo High School, just 13 years old.
There goes one. It was a deep ball for a touchdown.
Yeah, the kid that just went up here, the young quarterback number 79, Brayden Corbett, he's a seventh grader. So
Seventh grade?
He's
Wow.
seventh grade. And so Braden's out here just trying to display these skills. I know he's a member of our 7-on-7 team as well as our flag football team.
Wow, seventh grade, really. That's unbelievable. I was watching him earlier, and the footwork was there. He threw a nice ball, but I wouldn't have put him on seventh grade, brother. Man. But, you get them early like that, Jeff. You get them early and teach them those skill sets. You've got so many years to work with them and develop them.
Yeah, and that's what we were talking about, that learning curve. So there's so many things, especially for a quarterback, being able to process all this movement. Repetition is very important for them. So the earlier they can get out here and start seeing, even if it's just working on half ball here, like you're seeing 2 receivers against 3 DBs, it helps them split the field in half so they don't have to read as much. So
exactly,
it's
and
really
be able
good.
to, you're right, be able to plant that back leg and get that ball out on time. I mean, as we know with the passing game, it's all about timing.
It's like Coach is going to bring him in here. Now we're just a couple reps in, and Coach wants to just refine things here, make sure everybody's on the same page.
Oh, look at that, boy. Put him on the ground that time. You got to like it when the big guys are mixing it up on the turf. Doesn't feel like February, man. You know that? Does it? It doesn't feel like February, brother.
No, but it feels like an extra special treat here today. It certainly does, getting to see some ball.
So you're going to see a really good group here. You got Carson Clark at quarterback. There's Coverstone from Carroll at the slot, and Ryland Crawford out wide. Ryland's catching that ball there against Jackson McCullough. It's a good group, real good group.
That is a good group, and I liked how Carson really kept his base in the pocket that time and was able to check that ball down. So well done. Kept his fundamentals and throws a nice catchable ball.
So everybody, kind of just makes their way through the first parts of these showcases where it's the warm-up and then the skill development. But once you get into this part here, that's when you start seeing guys hitting the ground and, grabbing shirts, and you'll see some shirts ripped and all kind of stuff.
It's great to watch them compete, man. It's great, and you can feel the energy up here.
Darion, that 7th grader's taking a lot of command down there. He was making sure guys were off the line of scrimmage so he had room to work and just completed another pass.
Absolutely. That's one thing we really preach to our quarterbacks is making sure that they're taking care of housekeeping. And what we mean by that is more than just throwing the ball, your job is to make sure everybody is where they're supposed to be. So one of the first things they have to do when they come up to the line is what I like to call quality control. So they're looking to see if we're legal. So do we have 2 guys on? Is everybody else off? Who's where they're supposed to be? Do we have enough guys on the field? They go through those checks first before they even start to read the defense. So it's making sure your house is clean first before you start to analyze down the field.
So now it looks like we're just doing one group here instead of splitting it up left and right. And this is Hopper in at quarterback.
So you have ball going out to Brody Glenn there, and Brody Glenn catches that ball. Brody was a all-state receiver this past year with Bishop Luers High School.
Brody was fantastic. In the games we did, he was just awesome, and he was a handful for teams to shut down. But how about Hopper? Did you see that rope? That's a square in on that, and that ball is right on the money.
And threaded the needle. He threw that through a defender's hands, and anytime you can put the ball that closely in there, it's a good sign. It's a confident throw, too.
Darion, how big is Brody Glenn?
Brody's about 6 foot. 185, 190 pounds.
Looks much bigger on tape.
He does. He looks a lot bigger on tape, but I think he's growing. He spent a lot this offseason working on gaining some muscle and some speed. We thought he could be a little bit of a quicker receiver. He's kind of made his home at being a possession receiver. We'd like to see him be a little more explosive, so that's what we've been working on in this offseason.
Speaking of muscle, there's a big middle linebacker out there on the field.
Yeah, and see him close down on that ball. Catching that ball was Dane Kilby from Northrop.
Gotcha. Yeah, Kilby played well, too. We had Kilby against Northside. Remember, Jeff, Kilby really had a nice game that night, too.
Once again, there's the 7th grader. I'm telling you, the kid just completes passes.
Yeah, it's always fun to see these kids actually get out and compete against each other. There's a certain layer that you can kind of uncover about a kid, too, in these situations. A lot of times we see where you put them in an individual group, you put some ladders on the ground. Kids tend to look really good there because that's something that you can do without any pressure. And then once you put them in these environments, you can kind of see whether they can translate what they're learning in those skill sessions into actual play.
And that was good coverage that time. It was a completion, but that was good coverage that time by the defensive back out there. He was all over that.
Nice out pattern completed.
Timing. I love how the quarterbacks throw the ball on time.
You know, we're going to have a lot of coaching changes here in the city of Fort Wayne this year, Joe. New Haven looking for a new coach. Northside just hired a new coach. And Southside also going to be looking for a new coach.
Yeah, I know. It'll be interesting to see who gets the job at South. That's going to take a lot of work. And as far as New Haven, I'm excited to see a new coach over at New Haven.
New Haven brings back Jakar Williams. He'll be one of the top quarterbacks in the area. 6'4", 240-pound quarterback. Looks a lot like Byron Leftwich out there. We talked a lot about Joe, and man, he can run too. He's just a big, strong man.
Yeah, he took a nice step this last season, and played better and really cut a lot of the mistakes out. So we're going to see if Jakar can make that next step. Boy, I tell you, Halpert put that one right on the money. That looked like maybe that was a hook to the outside, but that ball is just exploding out of his arm today, Jeff. I'm really impressed with Halpert so far.
Yeah, and Darion, you're coaching Halpert right now on the 7-on-7, the elite black team over here at Traction AP. What's really impressed you about him?
Really everything he talked about today. It's his work ethic. I think he's ready to start throwing the ball on first down.
Yes.
And then, too, also seeing him with Carson, and they compete against each other regularly. I think iron sharpens iron. So when Carson's out here throwing the ball around and Luke goes up, you could just see those two pushing each other. But I think the one thing that you see Halpert really work on has been his accuracy. It's just getting the ball where he wants to put it. And you saw it. You saw him thread the needle right there. It comes from a lot of repetitions. We watched him in the drills earlier. He's putting the ball on the target. It's those kind of things and that kind of repetition, quality reps, is making a great quarterback.
Yeah, and Darion, you know, Carson's going into his senior year. Halpert's going into his junior year. That year of separation, can you see it as far as in the maturation process?
Yes. I mean, if you just think about Carson, just from this year, what his past season was his junior year back to his sophomore year when he took the helm as the starting quarterback, it's been such a huge just maturation process for him. And he was a kid that we had as a middle schooler who had happy feet. He would get the snap, and you could just see he's kind of jumping around, very frantic, nervous kind of energy. And we really taught him about how to calm himself down. And to be honest, a lot of what helped in that was yoga. So we have a yoga program.
Really? Yoga is what calmed him down?
Yeah, it calmed him down.
Really?
It's being
Yoga?
able to be mindful and
that's fascinating.
Let the situation get too big. And so he's really been working on that.
And I felt like when I played, that was the biggest challenge, was just trying at times, Jeff, to be calm, to be able to stand strong in that pocket, and to be able to do those things, because there was times where I felt kind of frantic too, and there was times I played where I almost felt like tunnel vision sometimes too. So that is absolutely fascinating. I would have never, to come out here and hear that today about yoga.
Yeah, so what we do here is we like what we call a holistic approach to our athletes. So we offer yoga. As far as their mental performance is concerned, we also offer our sports psychologist, Donovan Martin. So we take care of them with their skill set as far as everything that you see here. But then off the field, we're giving them yoga to work on flexibility, mindfulness, staying in the moment, not letting the moment get too big, and also mental performance, which deals with I should be playing and I'm not. Dealing with politics, winning, losing, that kind of thing. And also one of the big things was establishing culture. And so we had him come in and help us establish culture.
Yeah, and that's so key with the politics of playing and not playing, because, man, it's tough. As you go on and play at the higher and bigger levels, it's tough sometimes to stand there and hold that clipboard, Jeff Mahoney,
Well, and the thing about, he's saying yoga and calming a guy down.
That's fascinating. I've never heard that.
Well, in any battle, it's a battle of endurance ultimately, especially when you have guys that are skilled like all these guys are. And when you can be calm, that's just less energy you're expending in that franticness. So kind of get you ready for battle and conserve your energy.
And, football closest thing to war that we have as far as sports are concerned. And one of the things that they teach you is just to always be calm. I think panic is your enemy in any situation that has heightened emotion. is if you panic, then you tend to just go with whatever reaction is the first thing that comes to you. And so we like to have them not panic and then be able to think through things logically rather than just react.
You know, and honestly, Joe, you see that on Friday nights with a lot of the kids that are coming out of the Traction AP program.
Yeah.
I mean, the confidence is just exuberated through their body language, and they just simply know that walking out on the field, like they've got the edge, like they're one step ahead of you.
Yeah, and they've done it before, and I think that's why it's so key to be out here today and to compete like this. You're competing against the best. So you're absolutely right. That gives you that confidence and just being able to play calm. And I know when I played at Cincinnati, they always said, hey, deep breath before each play to get that exhale out so you don't play in that fight or flight mode. And that's very interesting, though, about the yoga.
Well, and it all comes back to just preparation and confidence, because the more confident you are, the less frantic you're going to be, the better you're going to perform. And it's cool to hear you talk about that, Darion, and how you guys are just pulling that all together.
That was absolutely something that we wanted to focus on, especially in this offseason, was everything that we can do for the athlete off the field. So that's why you saw the strategic partnership with Miss McCall, and we'll interview her again a little bit later. We had an interview earlier about her program with More Than an Athlete and talking about getting kids through the recruitment process. And so we thought we had good results in what we could do with kids on the field. We wanted to make sure that we were also coming in and supporting them as much as we could off the field, too.
Now, Darion, let me ask you this. You guys work so much with these kids, and a lot of you guys have tremendous contacts with recruiters and this and that. Do you guys work a little bit in tandem with the high school coaches, or, how is that relationship coming where maybe you guys can work together with a high school coach and reach out to some recruiters?
In some situations are better than other ones. We don't have any that there's any fractured relationships, but there's this obvious thing where some coaches want to take care of their program and really don't want any outside influence, and we're respectful of that. That's fine.
Sure.
So then we'll just take the kids in their off time whenever they have to come deal with us then. And then we have some coaches that are all in. They're fully encompassed in the program. They're encouraging the kids to come. And so we've seen both sides of that. But you made mention earlier about the kind of influx of coaches that we're having right now in the SAC, with Northside having a new coach in B.J. Johnson, who's a good friend of mine, also coached with me at Lewis High School, and Southside job being open, New Haven job being open, Wayne's job is just 1 year in there.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do now is, now that there's kind of new guys, there's new blood in that system now, we're trying to establish those relationships. So Northside is one of them that we do have. You can see a lot of Northside kids out here. We'll do the same when Southside will offer that same service to them too as well. But as long as they're willing to have us come along with the program, we're willing to go along with it. And if they're not, that's fine too. I mean, as long as the kids are getting better, we all have the same goal in mind. I think that's all that matters.
Sure. And I think that's so key, because if I'm a high school coach, man, I embrace this like crazy. As far as B.J. Johnson, he did a fantastic job with that offense last year. I mean, they averaged for Northside, about 480 yards a game, Jeff? And we just saw so much offense with that. So I think B.J. will be real successful over there.
Yeah, they were pretty explosive. And speaking of explosive, Jordan, the Burner Turner, wide receiver, he's down on the field. I'm not sure, he's not in a rep right now, but Jordan Turner he's also a basketball player, but man, at any time, those guys just shine like they were one of the best. It looks like Darion's got them down on the field.
So I got Jordan here. Jordan, you want to tell us a little bit about your season last year? We were talking a little bit about how you guys had a bit of an offensive explosion over there at Northside. We have every intent to see that that's going to happen again next year with your new head coach being your former offensive coordinator. So if you want to talk a little bit about what you think the expectations are for Northside coming into the season.
The same as last year, state championship. We still got a lot of young players on our team that can do what a lot of older players did last season, but we just got to get in the weight room, work hard on the off season, and execute what the coach is telling us to execute. But I really think we can do what we did last year too.
And it's going to be a little bit different now. Obviously, we interviewed Deuce earlier. He's going off to Morgan State, so you're going to have to replace your quarterback there. I think a lot of the talent is still there. You mentioned being young. How about Tay Johnson being a freshman and what he was able to do last year coming on the scene? And now you can come back with him next year. What do you think that tandem is going to be like, and who you think is going to be throwing you the ball?
We believe in what we got our quarterback, and that's Craigshawn Minson right now, as far as I know. Me and Tay, we'll be
we're gonna be pretty lethal on both sides of the ball, and I just got to get back to what I'm doing out here. So I'll just let me go do.
I'll let you get back to work, man.
Hey, I tell you what, I loved how strong his hands were, Jeff. He had probably one of the area's strongest hands, because when that ball came in, he would just pluck that ball out of the air. And I tell you, as far as Brashawn Bassett taking snaps, man, he was awesome at defensive end, man. Maybe that's the formula now. Maybe you take your defensive end and make him the quarterback, kind of like what Homestead did last year. But Bassett was awesome on the edge. And isn't that funny, Jeff, to think that Bassett was so dominant on the edge that he'll be the quarterback next year? But what an athlete that he is.
Well, you're right. Evan Ormsby, what was the defensive end at Homestead? Wow, what a senior season he had. He had about a 4-week stretch where he was the best quarterback in the state.
And no offense to James Arnold down in South Adams, but either Deuce or Evan Ormsby should have been the player of the year, my friend. I mean, I'd never seen a kid play the first 2 games and struggle like that, Jeff Mahoney, and come on and be that dominant the rest of the season, man.
Yeah, but they make a strong point with Tay Johnson. You remember that touchdown grab he had against Bishop Dwenger where he was just straight-arming guys to the turf. There was about 4 different guys that looked like they had him down. And Tay Johnson, Jordan Turner. I mean, honestly, I don't know if you can find a better duo at the wide receiver position heading into next season.
Yeah, and I just saw Austin Keyser out there take a rep and do a nice job at the corner position. And again, I'm so excited about him for Homestead, Jeff, because he can play corner, he can play safety, and I wouldn't be surprised they had him play some Spartan position because he's so physical. So he's another kid, and last spring, Jeff, he qualified for the state high jump. So that's a kid that I think that, these kids all want to focus on one sport, and you mentioned it, Jeff. I think run track is so key for a lot of these guys that play football, be able to, whether it's jumping or running out in the track.
Well, the nice thing about track is not only are you getting faster, working out those muscle groups, but you're also getting that competitive edge, because when you're out there all on your own, lined up there at the 100-meter dash, that's a whole nother type of competing.
Rod Woodson, people forget sometimes that he was a Olympic-type hurdler, you know what I mean? So, wow. Yeah, that track and that football go together. But, man, it's good football out here. I'm so impressed with the level of coaching and how skilled these kids are throwing the ball. And I really like some of the defensive backs that I see out here too, Jeff.
Well, I'm impressed with the moxie here of this 7th grader. I mean, he's completing everything. You can tell that he's got that QB mind, that he sees the field.
He does.
He knows which guy's going to be open.
Yeah, and that's the hardest thing, is just getting used to being able to trust what you see. And I think that's something else that Darian can speak to too. Is, that took me a long time too, Jeff, just to be able to trust what I see and rip it and throw it, and that's something that man, if you can get these kids early like this, look out.
And we got another interview down with Darian.
And you mentioned earlier today too about Carson being able to put his back foot in the ground and get the ball out so quick. And that's one thing that we also preach to our quarterbacks is you see it, throw it. Don't think about it. You see it, throw it. He's open, throw the ball. And that's what Brayden Corbett is working on down here. You can see it when he sees the guys open. Sure. He's letting it go. He's trusting it, and he's confident it's going to get to where it needs to get to. It also comes from a lot of reps. So he did a whole summer of 7-on-7 or flag football. And that organization actually, Traction, won the national NFL flag football national championship down in Tampa, Florida a couple of weeks ago. So that was pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, they won a national. And he was on the team that was a year older. They didn't win, but they lost to the team that did win it. So it's a good program that he's in there. And then he also does the 7-on-7. So, but yeah, I've got an interview down here. I'll let you tell them who you are. So tell us who you are, what school you go to, what position you play, what year you are.
I'm Aaron Stewart, go to Carroll High School, class 2022, play DB.
So, Carroll High School, we've been having a lot of conversation about offense, and I wanted to give a little bit of respect to the defensive side of the ball. So, tell us a little bit about your season last year at Carroll, what you were able to do, and some of the expectations you have for next year.
Well, I started every game. Didn't get thrown too much, but opportunities I did get, I made. Next year, just expecting to go out there, just get some picks, ball out.
So it's going to be a little bit of a transition for Carroll. You're going to have some players leaving, some coming in. It's the same as every year. Who do you think, any young guys that you can see coming up that are going to help you guys out next year?
I would say Braden Steely. He definitely had a good year last year. I think he can definitely help us out at like a safety position.
So what are you doing right now during the offseason to work on your game to get you ready for next year?
I've been working out with Traction every morning, every afternoon, every day. Just keep on getting better.
And, Aaron, I want to jump in real quick. He was the MVP as far as defensive backs from a couple weeks back, wasn't he, in another showcase?
So you want to tell us a little bit about your last showcase and being the MVP there?
It was up at the Legacy Center in Michigan. It was a good time, a lot of good competition. Blessed to win MVP, blessed to being the best of the best.
Yeah, he did fantastic, and he's another kid like Keyser who's a really up-and-coming defensive back and playing defensive back over at Carroll. The way Carroll scores the football so much, Jeff Mahoney, you play a lot of snaps over there, but he had a great showcase a couple of weeks ago, and I'm excited to see, Aaron continue to develop that talent this next year, Jeff.
Yeah, and we're going to let him go so he can get a breather before the next session. But talking about scoring a lot of points, how about that Northside Carroll matchup? I think it was like week 3 of the season.
And it was the one game I missed. I was down in Aruba with my wife, and I was sitting at the Tiki Bar. And I told her, I said, I want to keep an eye on the game. And what was it, the record for the most touchdowns thrown by Jeff Beck? I mean, that was unbelievable.
8 touchdowns.
I couldn't get back and forth fast enough to get the food to see the touchdowns. I think what stuck out to me was the average drive in that game was 50 seconds, wasn't it, Jeff?
Oh, man, it was just a back and forth. The final score was 76-48. Jeffrey Becker had a great game, but Deuce had a great game.
Deuce was laying it. And they had like 30 penalties. Remember that?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Remember they had like 30. If they took those penalties away, I think Deuce would have thrown for 800 that night?
And I think Deuce had a tweet, but he's like 560 yards passing.
With what, 20 penalties?
Yeah, it looks like Darion's got another interview for us.
Sure.
So I wanted to pull together this group right here. We interviewed earlier Miss McCall, and she made mention about her son and the process that they went through to get him recruited. So I figured I'd let him speak to it a little bit on his own. So if you want to tell us a little bit about who you are, what school you went to or are going to currently, and how that process was for you as far as recruitment.
My name is Jonathan McCullough. I'm a senior at Snyder High School, about to graduate. And I got an offer, and I'm committed to University of the Cumberlands down in Kentucky. Full ride. Through the recruiting process, that was an experience for me. It was a struggle, ups and downs, stressful, a lot of stress on me. But and through all that, I had my mom right beside me through all of it. She was my rock through all of it. She would keep me positive through it. I talked to her about everything that I had thoughts on, like which school and what I wanted out of the school. And that's how I decided to commit. And I, over 10 offers, 10 plus, and I had to cut them off. And then that's how I made my decision on where I'm going to school.
So 10 offers, that's a lot of offers, right? And so you're looking at 10 different options. 13, I'm sorry, we were 3 short. Looking at 13 different options as far as your decision is concerned. What were some of the things that you used to start weeding out some of those teams?
So I made three goals that I wanted to get out of a college. One was athletic, want to have a good athletic program. 2 was good academics. I want to major in law enforcement and criminal justice. So I wanted to have like a good criminal justice program. And then have a good, 3 was to get a new experience, a different experience that I had or already had before. So Cumberland's matched all 3 of my goals or my what I was looking for in the college. They have a great academic program, a good criminal justice program, and then athletic-wise, they're a winning program. So that checkmarked that box. And then good experience. They have different, like, all-around cultures going to Cumberland's this school year, like upcoming freshmen, and they already have people like from around the world, like internationally. So that checked that box off too.
So you're looking at college being more about the entire experience rather than just being about athletics. But you mentioned academics too. How important was GPA? So when you sat down with a lot of those coaches, how much did they emphasize GPA when you talked to them?
There were some that didn't care about academics, to be honest, and then there were some that, like, academics come first, and then that's what I was looking for in a college. They put the GPA, like, on top of the list to make sure that has to get right, and the team GPA, they made sure that was up to par for the football aspect of it. So yeah.
It's a really respected school, and congratulations. I used to ride down 75 down to Cartersville. I had a business down there, and I'd go by the Cumberlands. Cumberlands is a great school for football, but the academics are cool. And I'll tell you what, you go down there and you do criminal law enforcement, You play your football down here. Maybe you go on and become an air marshal. And maybe you go on and become a Secret Service agent, you know. I really enjoyed watching you play football last year, and we always heard about you that you're a natural-born leader. And so I think that's exciting with the criminal justice major, because that could lead into the FBI, doing some work for the FBI, or an air marshal, or a Secret Service agent, Jeff Mahoney. So congratulations. Cumberland is a great school.
And so we also have Mom here, which this is very unique. So we got to hear from the kid's perspective as far as being recruited and what he used to wean out some of the schools out of 13, willing them down to 1. So, Mom, if you want to tell us about your process. And so you're looking at it, I'm sure there was a lot of learning from you. So where did you start? Where were you at when you started the process, and where are you now?
So when we started with Jonathan, like he said, it was the 3 priorities that he really emphasized. And so there were schools that had approached him, and he had mentioned, you know, he had 10 plus offers. He would have had more, but when a college coach approached him and we asked what was his major, was his major there? If they did not have it, we just said, okay, thank you, but we don't want to waste your time or our time. And so that really helped narrow down the process. But that's a lot of pressure for a 17-year, 18-year-old kid when you have college coaches coming at you. I know people think it's very glamorous, and it is, and it's an exciting time. So I wanted him to be able to enjoy that process and let me handle the business side of it. So where we are now, yes, with my company, More Than Athletics, and so I can support student athletes and their families in the process. Initially, we'll go through a college priority analysis. So what are you looking for in a school? Is it high academics? Because that's what I'm going to stress. Also, do you need a small school or a large school? What is your learning style? Do you want to stay close to a city or a rural setting? Do you want to stay in Indiana? What do the athletics look like? Because we also need to know what division is going to be a best fit. And so through all of that, I will compile a list and guide your student athlete through that process, because the goal isn't to find a Division I scholarship. The goal is to find the best fit school.
I think that's so key. And you know, just to look back on my experience, I signed up with the service called College Prospects in the early 90s. And I had letters and visited a lot of schools. I probably had letters from colleges that I could fill up a basement with it. But when I got down to the nitty-gritty, I just really didn't know what to do or where to end up at. And, you know, I thought maybe I'd play MAC. I thought maybe I'd play for maybe a MAC school or this or that. And I had offers that I thought were coming in that I was told by recruiters that I didn't realize at the time, hey, yeah, we're going to offer you. So I kind of thought, okay, that's where I'll commit to. Then 2 or 3 of my offers fell through at the last moment. So looking back on it as a businessman now, I didn't treat it with a real business I didn't attack it with the real business strategy that I should. So I think what you're doing is so important with that. And just a follow-up question, there's some kids out here, you know, I've talked a lot about Stewart, the defensive back, and Keyser, that I think those are kids that maybe could even play for the military academies. Has she had any experience with that? Because I know as far as Keyser, you know, I was thinking a little bit about the Air Force with being a 3.5 student and all that athletic ability, but I wanted to ask if she's had any experience with that, dealing with some of the, the Navy, Army, or the Air Force as far as any kids in football.
So definitely, if that is your student athlete's preference, we will definitely look at that. And also, they don't necessarily have to go through the military academies. They can graduate as an officer during the ROTC program.
Sure.
That's a program that Jonathan is going to go through.
Yeah.
And then there's also a way to do that with a non-ROTC. So we will look at both of those aspects, and they give great scholarships. So even if your student athlete does not get into that military academy, there is a way to still become an officer in a non-military academy. So we can look at all of those.
Boy, I appreciate your knowledge. One last question, and I'm sorry to bogart all your time. What about, have you had any experience with junior college? I played a year of junior college football, and I played for the all-time winningest junior college football coach, Al Baldock, and he was fantastic. And I think a year of junior college football helped me grow up a little bit, then I was able to go on and play for the Cincinnati. So, there's some kids sometimes that fall through the cracks that I often wonder, and Jeff Mahoney knows about junior college football too, that I often wonder if that's an option sometimes for kids.
Absolutely. Every student athlete's journey is different. And so they ultimately may want to play at a 4-year university, but getting there may look different from everybody. And so absolutely, I will, GPA is the thing that really guides the process as well as the priorities. So we look at, are you looking at being redshirted your first year, or even if you can't even play because of your GPA? And so, yes, JUCO may be the best route to go, and it's okay. It's okay.
Sure.
Go 2 years. You get credits. Sometimes you need to do remediation a little bit, have a little bit more maturity, and then I will be there. Yes, I will be there, 2 years down the line when your recruitment process starts again, and help that transition as well.
So in your service, you're able to pick it up when the kid is being recruited initially, but you mentioned also whenever they decide to go to a school, if there's a chance for them to move again, they can also reach back out to you for some services in that area too.
Absolutely. My company, we're a big family, and so the ultimate goal is to have these student athletes achieve their dreams. And so that path may be very different for each one. And so in 2 years, even within that 2 years, I'm going to be still constantly checking on them. A lot of the student athletes call me mom. And so, yes, we will walk through that process together as a family.
That's a great process, because I tell you, when I went through it, my head was spinning between where to go, what schools to do, and I finally did a year at junior college, and I got down to Cincinnati. But what you're doing, your service is so important, because it ultimately paid my way through college. I got an accounting degree, and I became a CPA. And I look back and I think, my gosh, without football or some of the people on that path that I met, would I have gotten to where I'm going? So your service is, I cannot commend you enough how important it is.
Well, here we got.
I truly appreciate that. I also am an accountant as of last Friday, because this is full time.
Debits and
so
credits.
I appreciate that. My love for these kids, my love for sports, my love for education. This really doesn't feel like work to me.
That's great.
And so I appreciate everyone's support, Traction support, because really the passion is just seeing these kids achieve their dreams, because they truly are more than athletics.
And it's such a niche service, because, there's so many different nuances about it that regular parents and even these athletes have no idea. We mentioned earlier just the difference between NCAA and NAIA, even Division I and Division II, Division III, are things that a lot of these kids have no clue. They just know Division I's where I want to go. They have no idea what it takes to get in there or what the difference between that or NAIA is. And I think for us to have an advocate out here in that area, I think is excellent. So thank you again for what you do. Do you want to tell us anything more about your company? How do we reach you so we know how to get in contact with you?
You can go to the website. It is morethanathletics.com. Again, that's morethanathletics.com. And also you can focus on the social media sites. It's MT Athletics LLC or More Than Athletics LLC.
Thank you for your time.
All righty, thank you.
Seeing some good quarterback play out here, Joe Walburn. This quarterback right now is number 129. That's Preston Morris. He's out of Wheeler High School. Coming up next is 135. That's Carson Clark from Bishop Lures. We've talked a lot about Carson in the fantastic junior year he had last year for the Knights and under Coach Kyle Lindsey. He's a left-hander. Look at him spin it there. That was going out to Brody Glenn.
That's great coverage by Stewart out there. And we just saw Carson during the interview throw a deep ball for a touchdown. But you're right, Carson can spin it. But Glenn had a good route. But I really like Stewart and Keyser, the way they can close down those routes, Jeff.
That quarterback right there is Xander Brazel from East Noble. So always got to keep an eye out on those East Noble kids. This kid right here is number 118, Sam Miller from Guerin Catholic. Goes 6 feet, 170. Joe, one thing that's impressed me is Hopper in his sophomore year listed at 6'2", 180.
Yeah, and Hopper, I tell you, his dad, Brent, they really, really took the discipline of having the protein shakes and getting the meals in, because I'm telling you, I think that's understated. as good as this conference is, and the Summit Athletic Conference, and as good as Indiana high school football is, to play that quarterback position, you got to have some size, Jeff.
Here's Brayden Corbett, the 7th grader, Woodside Middle School. That means he'll feed into Homestead, and we know what Homestead does with their QBs.
He's good. Did you see how he anticipated that and that ball came out?
He's good.
He's good. That's exciting. I tell you, over at Homestead, I really like Chad and what Chad's doing. Homestead has really picked up their toughness, and they've won the conference the last 2 years, and Chad's just done a great job. Look at that ball, Jeff. Look at how it comes out of his hand. That's just fantastic. I mean, that is a big-time throw right there, and Halpert is just putting it all over the place. I knew how good Halpert was, but I'm really blown away with him today, Jeff.
Yeah, good defense on that play right there. This is number 134, Christian Cotton. He's out of Trinity Catholic High School, 5'11", 205.
Yeah, he's going to be a good one, too. Now, that ball got away from him there, but I watched him early on. He's been very accurate, and I think he's going to be able to move around real well, so he's kind of an exciting prospect, too.
Look at the big linebacker, 140 there, running all the way.
Yeah, and did you watch Keyser there? That was the inside slant that's so tough to defend the wide receiver, and Keyser absolutely takes it away. I'm telling you, 4.2 in the cone drill, 37-inch vertical leap. This kid is a big-time prospect.
That was Zion Green, the last linebacker from Snyder. Good defense being played right there by the DB.
And this is good defensive back play, Jeff. I mean, this is really difficult for the defensive backs because as a quarterback, I used to love this because you could drop back and really you don't have to worry so much about the rush. Puts a lot of pressure on defensive backs, these drills.
Look at
nice ball.
Braden Steely there. Woo! Great job getting that separation from the slot receiver position.
These kids are good. These kids are so good with this passing, Jeff. So advanced.
Nice breakup by number 99, Landon Hepner from Leo High School.
Boy, Leo continues to turn the kids out. His brother's Carson Hepner. Remember Carson Hepner run that football? So Leo continues to turn the athletes out.
Nathan Kunig's in at quarterback, and that is a completed pass.
That's a good-looking ball from Kunig. That was a hook route, and that hook route, that ball has to be on time. So good-looking pass that time.
Here's the youngin once again, Brayden Corbett, listed at 5'4".
Nice ball, you see? But the anticipation, he already understands the anticipation. That's a post corner. You got to throw that ball early, and that ball comes out early. Well done. This is going to be a good group here. Got Stewart on the outside matched up here.
And wide open. Beautiful find by the QB, Christian Cotton.
Cotton's got a lot of potential.
Here's that big linebacker I was telling you about. He's just muscle bound. His number is 78. And that's Jack Coheen from Cathedral High School.
That's right, and Jack's going to line up. Jack comes out here and he says, yeah, this is fine, all this, all this underwear football. But when football comes on the fall and I put the pads on, I'm going to run downhill and put some pads on you. So that was a good ball, too, there, wasn't it? But
a beautiful catch there by number 143. Yeah. I'll have to double-check that number, but wow.
But what's it say about Traction AP in the showcase camp when a kid from Cathedral comes up to compete?
Well, Coheen, he's a big one at 6'3", 220.
Nice job, Aaron Stewart.
Good defense.
Great defense. Stewart and Keyser are two to watch. They continue to get better. Stewart was the MVP of the showcase camp a couple weeks ago in Michigan. Keyser was number 2 for the defensive back. So the defensive backs down here at the Traction really are coming on, Jeff.
So it looks like they're switching it up just a little bit here. The O-line, D-line just finished up some one-on-one drills.
And we didn't get a chance to talk as much about the O-line, but I was watching some of the O-linemen. Hurst from Snyder's a beast. I mean, obviously we don't have pads on, but he had some really good moves, Jeff, from the edge as far as attacking. That's Caden Hurst from Snyder, 6 feet 235. I watched a couple of his moves, Jeff, where he really is going to be a force on the edge.
Snyder always known for their defensive play, especially their defensive linemen. We talked about Ison Robinson. How about Lawrence Johnson over at Purdue?
Yeah, and Coach Tittman's done a great job over there, too. And I tell you, with Luke coming on. I think they're going to be able to do more with their offense. And I think that will help their defense too, Jeff.
Wow, good grab there by number 91, Gabe Starks from Carroll High School.
Boy, Carroll just has receiver after receiver, don't they?
We got another interview down here. We got Jack Goheen here from Cathedral High School. So, Jack, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? I already said your name, but if you want to tell us your name, what school you go to, what position you play, and what year you are.
So I'm a junior. My name's Jack Goheen. Play a Sam and a 3-3 at Cathedral. Just won state this year, and I'm just coming down here to get some practice, get some attention maybe.
Did you guys hear that flex? We just won state this year. Well, I coach at Lures, and we just lost state. So that felt a little, felt like a jab right here from you on that, man. Bishop Lures, man, God, it hurts. But Red Rings are good, too. They're not blue, but they're
you were in the game.
Right. Hey, so you want to tell us a little bit about how you heard about the showcase? Coming up here from Indy, how did you hear about the showcase?
I just checked the email one day, saw it, and caught my eye. Thought I'd come up here, get some work in, maybe get some stuff on film.
And so what do you think you're going to get out of the experience today? Coming up here from Indy, obviously with COVID going on, there's not a lot of sports going on in some other states, and you're coming up here from Indy. What did you want to get out of this experience here today?
Just to get better. Come here, compete with these kids. Hopefully get some film I can send to some colleges, show them how I'm doing out here.
And you look good, Jack. This is Joe Walburn. I do the games for Summit City with Jeff Mahoney. And I think as a linebacker, what's key is your ability to drop and pass and be able to cover. And I think your feet look good. You got the ability to backpedal and really be able to cover that, because obviously on Friday nights you can show up with your pads and you can fill a hole on an ISO play. But if you can drop back as a linebacker and cover some of the quickness out here, I think that's going to be huge for you, and I think you definitely have shown that today.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, one of the things we saw is obviously we saw you drop back into coverage and able to cover some of these quicker kids down the field. With the way football is going, with all the spread stuff that you're able to see nowadays, how important is it for a middle backer to be able to cover guys in space?
Well, that's what it's all about nowadays. They're taking the faster kids and putting them in the box so they can get out there and cover ground and be good in open field. So it's really important now.
Definitely. All right, so Cathedral, you guys won state championship last year. What do you think you're going to do this year?
Do it again.
You're going to do it again?
Yeah, but what's it like, man? I got to ask.
17 seniors starting this year, so.
17 seniors coming back?
I got to ask one more question. I'm sorry to jump in,
15
man.
coming back.
What is it like? What's it like on Friday night?
What's it like on Friday night
to put the colors on of Cathedral and go out there and play high school football on a Friday night?
Oh, it's awesome. My brother played there. I just know all the families out there played for the school. So it's awesome. Yeah. The tradition there is crazy.
I know. We hear about it all the time. Cathedral's a great program. You guys are at state like it's your second home. So congratulations last year. We'll see if you guys can pull it off again. All right.
Yes.
How about that pass, man?
Speaking of Cathedral, Marcus Stepp was a big-time player at Bishop Lures High School. His son, Marquis Stepp, was a big-time running back at Cathedral and now plays for USC, the Trojans.
Wow, isn't that something? How about those bloodlines? We talk about the bloodlines, man. I was looking for Maxwell Schultz out here too, man. But, the bloodlines are just awesome, man.
Well, Jonathan McCall is going to play at University of Cumberland's. Marquis Stepp's brother, Marcus Stepp, played at University of St. Francis.
Yeah.
He didn't get one. He got 2 national championships.
Yeah, it's like Antoine. How about Antoine with the bloodlines and Deuce? Has there ever been any better quarterback bloodlines in this area? It's fun stuff, man.
It's good. It is good. So, once again, we're here doing some perimeter work. Actually, it looks like we got this DBs and receivers. Now, that's a linebacker who's looking really good.
Marcus Brown.
Yep. Yeah, you talk about speed
from
and
Lima.
athleticism.
Yep.
Well, he's rangy, too.
Yeah, that's Marcus Brown from Lima. Another big-time kid on defense, a recruit. And you saw as a linebacker how with his hips he could redirect and shut that down. That's what makes him so attractive to college recruiters. How about that ball? That's a post corner. That's a big-time throw. That's a Power 5 throw right there.
And completing that pass to Kamari Juarez from Snyder High School, who goes 5'9", 160. That's a lethal combination to look out for next year.
First down passing for Snyder, then come back with your run game on second and third down, because the way Luke can throw the ball, they're going to have to roll the safeties back, and there'll be so many more rush lanes, Jeff.
Well, with the big O lineman DJ Moore and also the fantastic running back in Tyrese Brown,
Yeah, remember him? He reminded us a little bit of Edgerrin James, the way he could run at that pad level. But Snyder's got so much talent coming back. And I tell you, this is tough, man, when you come out here and do these one-on-ones for defensive backs, man. I mean, you feel a little bit of alone out there on the island on these, but this is how you get better.
And we got another interview down there. Mr. White has Dre Muhammad, who is the owner of Traction AP.
So, Dre, what was the idea behind the showcase? What niche do you think you wanted to cover in presenting this? I know we did it last year when things kind of got shut down for COVID. What are some of the advantages for these kids in putting on a showcase like this?
Well, I think the focus was to really just give them an opportunity to come and compete. I think that's the biggest thing when you talk about the offseason is I think all athletes need an opportunity to compete outside the restrictions that they do have, whether it's at the school, the program that they're in, and just going outside of that market. And then also from an exposure standpoint, giving them an opportunity. I know we're live streaming, giving an opportunity to be seen, being able to be interviewed so coaches get to know who they're talking to, because there are so many limitations with the dead period being extended. So we just wanted to provide an opportunity for them to compete, develop, and have an opportunity to really showcase themselves in front of other people.
And so we know that states like Illinois are pretty much shut down as far as sports are concerned. Michigan's the same way. We're being in a unique situation here in Indiana. How important is that as far as being able to put something like this on indoors?
I think it's critical. I think when you look at the amount of athletes that don't have the opportunity to showcase what they can do, it's so great. And with COVID this last year, which seems like forever, but this last year it's really been hurting the last two classes in terms of recruiting. So for us, man, it's really big to be able to still showcase something like this in Indiana because other opportunities don't exist outside this area. So it's a really big deal for a lot of these players.
And so we've got kids that we've interviewed that come up from Cathedral. We've got kids here from Ohio. So obviously they see it as being advantageous in the same way. If you want to talk a little bit about the Traction Athletic Performance Program, what are some of the things that you offer kids? What's going to make a kid come here instead of going other places?
Well, I think the thing that separates us and just being transparent is that, man, it's so much bigger than football to us. We know that a lot of people gravitate to us because of the football development, the speed development, the skill development, but it's just so much bigger than that. I mean, at some point, everybody's going to be done here playing the game, and we want to make sure that we have at least prepared them psychologically and mentally to be prepared for life after sports. And so it's about identifying who they are before sports, behind sports, and beyond the sports. And so I think that's the thing that we do well is that it's about the children, and we build the relationships that we need to in order to help them. And like we say, it's a village that takes that's needed to help athletes get to a certain point, our children get to a certain point. And I think that we provide that from a staff standpoint, from an environment standpoint, and from an atmosphere standpoint. And so I think, obviously it's hard for me to say I can't be biased, but just unbiasedly speaking, I think that we provide a great opportunity for development for children.
You do, and thank you, brother, because you're doing so much for our community with our kids.
Yeah, and Darian, what's Dre learned the most in this past year? Like from a year ago today, what's he incorporated the most into Traction AP?
Traction AP.
What team?
No, just overall in the business.
Yeah, so I would say we've definitely had a lot of Homestead players, a lot of Carroll players. It's sprinkled around the city, but those have been two schools that have had a lot of players come through and a lot of players come out of nowhere as it relates to their development. So I would say those two schools have been really impactful in terms of having players come in, and not necessarily them having players come in, but that has been the team and a group of players that have came in, and they've obviously have friends come in and whatnot. And our whole thing is we just want to complement the programs. Like at the end of the day, we want to complement programs. We know that high schools don't have the time to develop like they want to, and so we want to be able to be that opportunity or that platform to provide an opportunity for players to develop, to get to a certain point. So when players get to school, it's just a plug and play. You can just, you take what's been developed and then you can just play it to the best of your benefit and for the benefit of the whole program that you are coaching or you're at.
And your kids have really shined on Friday night. When we go out and do the games, every time we get an update and some kid's making a play, well, he's a Traction AP kid. And it's interesting because you've had a lot of Homestead and Carroll kids, and those programs have really become dominant the last few years with Homestead winning the last 2 conference championships.
Yeah, and I would say our environment, our atmosphere, what we provide in terms of pressure, positive pressure, and just applying it to the athletes and their process. That's the thing, right? It's like
you see a lot of people go and doing training. Watch your mouth, Aaron Stewart, before I tell your mom. You see a lot of people training and whatnot, and that's cool and everything. You never knock somebody for training, but I mean, there's so much more into it than just training a player. I mean, you got to build relationships. You got to know what you're doing.
Sure.
You got to provide the atmosphere. And so I think really when you look at the players that shine in on Friday nights, it's because they're in the off season. They're in an environment that really pushes them and forces them to become better. There is no, you're just going to fly by here. Like, we're going to put the pressure on you. We're going to challenge you. We're going to challenge you to the nth degree. Most of the parents are on board, so there is no running away from this, this challenge. And so I think that's the thing is we pressure them. We pressure them with the knowledge of the game. We pressure them of, what it takes to be better. This dude is out here.
Unbelievable.
And with one arm, I'm telling you.
Kid's a winner.
A winner.
He's a winner. He's a winner.
Period.
No matter what he does in life,
Come
he'll
here,
be
man.
successful.
Come here, man. You need to interrupt this interview.
Yeah, tell us how you doing, man.
I'm Albert King against. Yeah.
Tell him again.
I'm Albert King against Lamont High School junior. Yeah, I don't know what to say.
And I'm out here just doing what I do.
That's right. That's right.
So
living life. God bless them.
On Fridays, they're already used to it, and the environment we set is so much greater than what they would play on Fridays, so it makes it easier for them to perform.
So one other question that I have, talking about strategic partnerships. So we interviewed Miss McCullough a couple times earlier, and she was talking about the service that she's now providing some of our athletes and offering that service to athletes outside of our program. In addition to that, what are some of the other things? I know I've mentioned mental performance and yoga. So what is our approach to an athlete as far as holistically taking care of them, not just what they do on the field?
So you definitely have Mrs. McCullough, who's doing a great job in MTA. You have Donovan Martin, who does a hell of a job with mental performance and really helping them along that lines, really trying to, really just get the most out of the mental. The mentorship and relationships is critical. I mean, you know it, and, we spend so much time dealing with these children that is so much more about life than it is the sports. And I think that's been a thing for us is that, if you come to me and you just want to play sports, it may not be the best situation. I'm going to be quite honest with you. And then we are also about to launch here shortly a human development curriculum for all athletes. And so if you're an athlete, we want to help with players who need to worry about who their identity is outside of the game. We want to focus on overcoming obstacles, overcoming situations that life will bring to you. And we want to use this platform as athletes to do it. So we have a whole curriculum coming out that is called Human Development. And the whole focus is on self-improvement and really using your platform to service others and build, that future that you desire to have.
You guys have any questions for Dre upstairs?
No, just keep it up. Great work.
Great work, man. I think your vision's amazing, brother. And I can't tell you how much of a difference it makes in the community because you're taking our boys and making them men, and I really appreciate that.
No, and I appreciate the support. I think obviously, again, for us, we get a lot of credit, but this is a well-rounded thing. There's so many people involved in this, and we work together collectively. So we appreciate all the support that we've been getting, and we're going to strive to take it to another level to give these athletes an opportunity to do what they can do and what they should do.
So one last question. You talked about taking it to the next level, and we talked about how you are as far as a visionary for the company. What are some of the things that you have that are unfolding here over the next few years as far as your outlook for Traction Athletic Performance?
That's a really great question. For the viewers listening, you won't know. I'm not going to speak on that right now. I'm not going to say anything about that right now, but I will say the human development curriculum that we're about to launch is really going to be big. And that's for any athlete that has a desire to really improve who they are as a man, as a young lady, a man of character, integrity, all of those things. And so that's going to be a really big thing for us. We're going to treat it just like college, where it's going to be tuition. It's going to be a 12-week curriculum, 12-week course. So that's our next biggest thing that's coming up. And then I'm sure there are some other things that people will be hearing about in the near future.
Well, thanks for everything you do, man. It's been a good experience. We're winding this thing down. So always we appreciate what you've done. These kids out here, they wouldn't have this exposure if it wasn't for something that was obviously born inside of your brain. So we appreciate you for that.
So once again, that's Dre Muhammad, outstanding receiver in his own right, played at Indiana and it had a stint, I think it was with the Seattle Seahawks in the NFL.
Yeah, fantastic football player and even better vision.
Both him and Lawrence Barnett were both at Indiana University playing ball.
Yep, so we got LB who had spent some time at IU. Dre also spent time at IU and Purdue. Dre went on to play with the Oakland Raiders.
Okay.
We also have Austin Coleman down here. He's the one down here picking the ball up in the red sweatshirt with the dreads. He played at the University of St. Francis, broke most of their return records there, and he tried out for the Seattle Seahawks. So he was on that team for a little while.
No, actually, Austin broke a 37-year record for kickoff returns in the NAIA. Darian, how about that? 8 kickoff returns for a touchdown in 2 years?
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible. I watched it firsthand. I had graduated a few years beforehand, and him and my wife are first cousins. So I actually remember when he was a little kid running around. He was a tough kid then. So I'm not surprised at all to see the type of success that he had as far as returning balls over at the University of St. Francis. The guy, he's still just as athletic today. He did a lot of semi-pro after he went out to Seattle. But right now he's training our receivers here, so he gets just as excited when he gets to see these guys making plays as he did when he was making them.
Yeah, AAC, obviously I covered him at St. Francis. He's got that next man speed, and one of the most exciting football players I've ever covered.
So I have Mr. Coleman here, and I figured we'd let him talk about his starred career over at the University of St. Francis, where he broke most of their return records. And you want to give us a little bit about what it was like to play NAIA? A lot of people's perception is that small level. Nobody takes it as being as serious football as Division I. But you were able to parlay that into a trip out to Seattle to try out for a professional team out there.
Right. Oh, yeah, man. I don't take none of that in consideration anymore. Just from my experience and from what I've seen in NAIA, you got a lot of guys that come from Division I that's coming to NAIA just so they can get some playing time or just reps or get a look. So, none of that. As long as you go out and produce, and you have the same end result as I did.
So how many records you got over there at St. Francis?
I got at least about 12 of them.
About 12 records at St. Francis.
Look it up on my highlight tape on YouTube.
Yeah, sign your name on the wall over there, As far as that D1 versus St. Francis, I played over at Cincinnati, and I went and saw some St. Francis games, and I'm telling you, man, there's not that much of a difference, Jeff. You know what I mean?
Nah.
Maybe a little bit of size on some of the guys on the lines, but there's not that much of a difference, man.
Now, when it comes to skill level, I think it's pretty much the exact same.
It is.
The biggest difference is about 4 inches in height.
That's exactly what it is. If I remember right, when St. Francis went down and put it on Indiana State?
Oh, yeah.
And then the next week, Indiana State went down and hung around with Oklahoma for a half. So I'm telling you, man. Remember that?
Valparaiso, Indiana State,
yeah.
Butler.
Oh, yeah. I was on that team that went down and played Indiana State.
Yeah,
and all the talk going into it was there's no way you're going to be able to compete.
They laid it down on Indiana State. Then the next week, I remember Indiana State hung with Oklahoma for a half. I was like, well, you think Oklahoma would ever give St. Francis a game?
Hey,
that'd be a big payday, wouldn't it?
hey, Darian, there's a reason why those schools won't play St. Francis anymore, huh?
Oh, yeah. I remember we would always offer to play schools, and they never wanted to do it. They knew we were pretty tough. I had a friend who was at Indiana State. I was on that team that went down there to play.
Yeah.
And he was telling kids, he had friends that were football players, and he was telling them, you got to take this team serious. And they're like, oh, come on, they're NAIA, and then we go down and I think we beat them 43-14.
Yeah, you beat them by about 5 touchdowns, man. Oh, man.
It's something else what Coach Kevin Donnelly's done over at the University of St. Francis.
Man. What a coach he's been. I often watch the Purdue, and I don't mean to get on Purdue, but I often watch some of the Purdue football the last 10 years, and I can't help but sit back and think, man, if Coach Donnelly coached them, because Coach Donnelly would take like a defensive tackle and make him into like an all-NAIA quarterback, you know what I mean? And Purdue has never been able to develop a quarterback these last 10 years, and I also often think of Coach Donnelly and how he just rolled those quarterbacks out, man.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, also look at the job they're doing over at IU now. I mean, that's a real deal program.
So much better, yeah.
Guy came out of Ben Davis, and he's just taking that championship DNA, and he's moving it into the college ranks.
And I think you guys can comment on this, though. I think it's so key because I think he's got the relationships with the Indiana high school coaches. Obviously, he's picking kids out of Florida and Texas, but he's got good relationships with Indiana high school coaches, and I think he's really kind of catching the wave because as we see this Indiana high school football get better and better, he's just there, really taking advantage of it. And he's also done a really good job with the quarterback position, and that's my biggest criticism of Braum over at Purdue. They never get better at quarterback, and that's why I know Deuce chose Morgan State, but I thought Braum and them, I would have begged Deuce to come over to Purdue because Purdue needs to develop a quarterback, and I think that's really my criticism of Coach Braum over there. But I'll give it up to IU. IU also played much more physical than I ever saw IU play since back in the days of Anthony Thompson in the late 80s.
Yeah, and that's one thing is with those coaches, you got to own your own state.
You got to, man, and especially when your state's getting better. I mean, go look at the record this year of our Indiana teams playing Ohio teams, man. We did well. We competed. Yeah. That wasn't the case 20 years ago, man. Yeah. We're going over there and winning games. You got to own your state. And Joe Tiller always recruited up here in Fort Wayne. It was his fertile ground. Braum's got to get back over here and lock some of these kids down, Jeff Mahoney.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. And, 20 years ago, the MIC wasn't considered one of the top 5 conferences in the state, but it seems like year in, year out of Indianapolis, they are.
They are. And I'm telling you, with jumping out and playing some games out of conference. That's the one thing that we haven't been able to do in the Summit Athletic Conference as much. But, jumping down, playing Trinity out of Louisville, playing, going over playing Moeller, playing some of those Cincinnati schools have really, we talked about the kid from Cathedral. They're battle-tested and they're tough. And that football is so good and here in the state. So I'm going to say this might be a little controversial. I think how about that catch, man? How about the feet, too? I think when they went away from the single basketball tournament and went to class basketball, I think that helped high school football too. I got to be honest with you.
Well, one thing, there's a lot of talk. Should the SAC split up into 2 divisions, small school, big school, so that you can get some of those out of conference games under your belt?
I think it wouldn't be a bad idea. I'd like to see Homestead go down and maybe play a Westfield in the regular season, or maybe Homestead goes up and plays a Penn or plays a Merrillville. I think that would help them in the playoffs because Homestead's been so dominant, but they get in those regional games. It's such a big step up in competition. So I think that would definitely help, be able to have just, even if it's one game out of conference, And I also think that would maybe give a breather to teams like South and Northrop and Wayne that really have to run the gauntlet to go through that whole conference schedule.
No, I'd have to agree with you there, Joe. Nice double move there, Ryland Crawford.
Boy, Crawford looks good out there catching the ball, but man, I tell you, that safety position and defensive back, he could be a game changer at the next level.
Well, I've had a lot of people telling me for a while now that Ryland Crawford's one of the most polished receivers in the state.
Yeah.
Looks like Darion's got Antoine Taylor, and we'll get him for a quick interview.
So I got Antoine Taylor here. He's the quarterback guru, resident quarterback guru here at Traction Athletic Performance. I know earlier we interviewed Lawrence Barnett, and he talked a little bit about his program and the DBs and his approach to training and the stuff he's doing as far as the professional level is concerned. Antoine Taylor, obviously his program has just as much results. He can talk forever about the kids that he's got playing on the next level and beyond. And so I'll let him talk a little bit about his program and what it is that they do with the Matrix training.
Well, Matrix quarterback training, we educate, we challenge, we develop. That's the main focus. We develop in the human first because we want to be very conscious of the person that's playing the position. And then we focus a lot on after football. A lot of times when you're a football player, you get your identity is attached to the role that you play. And so we have a big focus on making sure guys understand the dichotomy between their role and position and then who they are. And it's a lifestyle for us. Being a quarterback is not a position, it's a lifestyle. And so that's our mantra. That's what we focus on. And we're just trying to help guys, develop in the process.
We talked a lot about some of the quarterbacks we saw here. We were actually really impressed with Brayden Corbett, being a 7th grader out here competing with these high school kids. And he's got so long before he needs to really be out here in a showcase doing this type of thing. But how important is the experience for a young quarterback like that to come out here and get it now?
Well, I always say showcases and camps do one of 3 things. Either to get you experience, it gets you exposure, or it gets you exposed. And so the earliest you can get into starting to camp, there's a way to camp. You learn how to camp And for him, getting this experience, and we've already saw a 24/7 rep say, hey, we need to get this guy the right wristband because he's balling. He was 6 for 6 at his first six during the combos that we ran. And so he's doing very well, getting the experience, and we just want to build on that for him. And so it's critical for him.
So we interviewed Michael Hopper earlier. Luke and Mike, well, we were talking about Mike, we were interviewing Luke. We were talking about their process as far as the older brother being in college now and things being different for the younger brother and having different arm talent and what his maturation process has been like growing through this program and with your training, and also, too, with Carson Clark and how he's changed. And I've witnessed him from being a middle school quarterback with happy feet to leading the state in passing last year, and then, too, with your own son and how those two were leading the state pretty much in most statistical categories last year.
Yeah, so, as far as Luke goes, Luke and Carson, they've been with me since they were in middle school. And I don't like taking credit, but those guys have developed, and we've been able to continue to keep them focused on the process, not the outcome. If they focus on the process, they'll get the outcome. And so, they both have high potential, and like we said, potential, we know what that is. It's like milk, right?
Milk.
And so they're developing and they're closing the gap on their potential. I think it's a good situation for Luke going in this year as a junior. He was a sophomore last year, and going in as a junior, the game is going to slow down for him. It's something about playing this position, whether it be 7-on-7, starting at your high school, but as you start to get more at-bats, if you will, the game slows down. You are more productive. You start to think the game, and that's the thing that we're focusing on with Luke and Carson, is how to think the game so it slows down. And so that's the point that we're at. And, Deuce had a great season last year, and so what we're trying to do is we are just trying to get guys results. But we get those results by focusing on the process.
So talk a little bit about what's unique about matrix quarterback training. There's a lot of guys that's going to teach guys how to throw a football. So what's different about your program, and why is it that you tend to have the results that you have with your players going on to play at the next level?
I think a lot of it comes from my personal experience. At times I was the best player on the team, and there were times I was the worst player on the team. There was times I was the coach's favorite, and there was times I wasn't the coach's favorite. And so I just take a full approach to the whole, quarterback. I train the whole person. And so, we spend a lot of time on the mental side, understanding coverages fully, understanding concepts, understanding how to apply, because really it's not that many coverages. They're pretty basic. Is the middle of the field open or is it closed? We start from that point right there. And then we break it down. What's the corners doing? What's their pre-snap alignment? Does he have skinny feet? Does he have a wide base? Is he a force player? Is he covering the alley? So when quarterbacks are getting this level of information and they're getting it repetitiously, repetition is the mother of learning. And so if a guy works with me for 3 years, he's going to see some results. He's going to see some results. And so we focus. I guarantee that. But we just focus on understanding the game and then playing the game. I teach my quarterbacks to think like defensive coordinators. Be a DC and then work backwards from there. What this defense can do. What are they trying to take away? Let's get a good pre-snap read, and then we got to get a good post-snap read. We try to keep the game simple. There's only so many route combinations you can run. And so we just rep it. We just rep it. And I think that's why the guys are having success.
And I tell you, as an outside observer and an old Southside guy, I got to give you all the credit in the world, because you know what? You took your experiences and all your success, and even at that position, it's such a tough position to play, the challenge is, and you're able to put it into a program and a format for the kids for the next level, and I really admire that, and I think that's awesome. I tell you, I was so proud of your boy this year. I tell you, a lot of us have talked over the years with the way the passing game has come along, that there's going to be a kid that's going to come along and be the best as far as being able to throw the football, and I think that your boy has that crown right now, and I'm excited to see him go to Morgan State. But I tell you what, it's impressive. We go out and do those high school games on Friday night. It's so impressive how far we've come at the quarterback position and how skilled the kids are nowadays, Antoine.
I mean, that's just what I'm committed to. We have a development program. That's why that's the most important thing for us, is to develop. Because it's one thing to get guys to college, help them get an opportunity. The scholarship is the opportunity. But can they be productive? And for a while there, we was getting guys. I mean, there was one point out of all the MAC schools, we had a quarterback there at Ohio, at Ball State, at Miami, at Eastern Michigan. I mean, there was a point where it was Bowling Green, Western Michigan. And so there were a few that were very productive that made it to, MAC championships. But then there's another few that wasn't as productive. And so it's not just the training, it's helping them understand, that there's a paradigm shift that has to happen when you get to college. You got to produce. I think Coach Kelly talked about the guys that come from Fort Wayne up in Notre Dame. That's what I want guys saying about matrix quarterback training, is these guys come up here, they're mentally prepared, they understand the game, they're ready to do install. They can do install themselves. That's how I try to approach it. So a quarterback that works with me, by the time he graduates from high school, he can run a whole practice.
And that's so key, because when I went to Cincinnati, I went to Taft Junior College, I was a junior college All-American, but the coach had about 6 plays, and it was, hey, Joe, man, how about 3-step, 5-step, can you throw the fade? I got to Cincinnati, the playbook was the size of an encyclopedia. And I thought, oh, my gosh, I got to know what this guy's doing, this guy's doing, this guy's doing. I got a 35-second play clock. I got to get these lined up. We're playing University of Syracuse or Wisconsin. You know what I mean? So I can't say enough the mental aspect of that position, how key it is, what you're doing with these kids, because I'll be honest with you, when I got to Cincinnati, I just wasn't prepared for that, man.
And that's one of the things that we have a pre-snap routine that I'm looking for Deuce so I can call him over here. Just to put him on the spot and just say, hey, what's your pre-snap routine? Just so, so the first thing is we're checking the game clock. We're checking the play clock. We're checking down and distance. We're checking field position. Are we on the hash? Are we in the middle of the field? Are we on the other hash? Okay, now let me get the play. We're going to go to the line. We're going to make sure everybody's set. Then we're going to pre-scan the defense. Are they too high? Are my corners outside leverage or inside leverage? Or are they head up? Can I see his eyes? And so it's a routine that we go through, and then we go back to checking the game clock, and then we're going to check the box. So you have to compute so fast at this position, and it's not just about throwing the ball. It's about, can I keep my team out of bad plays?
Correct.
When I was in college, RPO wasn't a big thing, but there was times where I had the liberty to check us out of plays. And I remember we were in a championship game my senior year. Coach Kevin Donnelly and Coach Yursich, who was at Penn State, Coach Yursich beat this in my head. I remember the play like it was yesterday. It was either 888 or 999. 888 was to the right, 999 was to the left. I saw a guy walk up in the box because I was going through my rules engine, and that guy was walking up. I checked the play. It was a screen to Mike Lito. I threw it. We scored a touchdown. We win the game. And so from that experience, I learned, man, we have to equip quarterbacks. We can't box them in because they're the field general. We have to equip them so that they know what's a bad play. The coach can call whatever, and we can run whatever. But is this a good play against this formation or this defensive set or not? This front might, if we got an over front or an over G, should we be running, a trap to this, So just understanding all of that, it takes time. It takes time. And so when I was working to try and get into the NFL with Eugene Parker, I was working with a coach, Dan Henning, who gave me the playbook that I was going to be running had I got to the NFL, and it was this thick. I still have it to this day. Yeah. And it was so much information. I was overwhelmed. I'm like, wow, okay. Yeah. So what I try to do is just help guys prepare for college while they're in high school, so high school is easy. And so, you will see with our quarterbacks, they're playing the game at a different level than most other quarterbacks. And that's no knock on anybody else. There's a lot of good quarterback coaches out here. We just do a really good job developing. And I don't call us the best. Other people do.
I'm gonna step in. You are the best.
There's a reason why the other people say we're the best.
You are the best. You're the quarterback whisperer, brother. You are the best. And I tell you what, we've come a long way with the passing game from Southside High School, hadn't we, man? To the way things are now, man. Things have changed, haven't they?
Thank you, man. I'm working at it. I'm constantly trying to develop. We got our own app that our quarterbacks can, they can look at it anytime, right from their phone, where we got concepts. We got, we teach them personnel. We teach them, all the defensive gaps. We teaching them everything that comes along with this position. that they need to know so they can play at a high level.
Now, on Friday night, man, are you like a proud papa on Friday night with all the kids out here, you and Dre and LB and everything? Because Jeff and I go out and do the games, and we get the updates, and Jeff elbows me. That's a traction kid. That's a traction kid. That's a traction kid. And I told Jeff, man, they must sit back, man, in their lazy board and be like proud papas on Friday nights. Everybody's balling out.
Well, man, my heart is here for the right reason. You know, I want to help kids, you know, close the gap on their potential. I do get excited seeing the guys be successful, you know, the committed guys. You know, sometimes people are playing this position and they're just interested. But when you play the position of quarterback, you got to be committed, and with everything that comes along with it. There's a lot of crap. There's a lot of scrutiny that comes with this position. And so that's why our mantra is it's a lifestyle, because you got to take the good with the bad. You got to take the adversity with the success and everything in between. And, you know, that's how guys grow up. And they can take everything they learn playing this position and playing this sport and then apply those principles, extract it, and apply it to life.
And one last thing I'll mention, too, because I think it's a unique part of your program, and I don't know if it's ingrained in it, but it's definitely something that comes out of these kids is, like, for instance, right now, Deuce is coming back, and he's helping out with our middle school team. My son being a 7th grade quarterback, Brayden Corbett's out here. He's a 7th grade quarterback, and they're getting trained by Deuce. And I can just remember my kid coming home. He's like, man, I'm sitting right there next to Deuce. He's showing me how to do it. But I also remember Peter Morrison coming back and teaching Deuce. So is that something that you ingrain in your program, or is that just something that happens to be a byproduct of it?
No, it's not it is a byproduct, but it's by design. So, you know, when you go back forward, James Kanapke was coming back helping. David Morrison was coming back helping. Aiden Smith coming back helping. And the guys that come back locally, they all come back. But by design, we have a buddy contract system where our older quarterbacks are taking one younger quarterback under their wing. Your son trains with me. He has a buddy. And so their responsibility to each other is to help each other meet each other's goals. And I require for them to talk every week. And that's not through text. That's voice to voice. And so when we have our Zoom calls on Wednesday nights, I'm holding them accountable. Hey, you talking to your buddy? You know, are you guys communicating? Because I believe when I was in high school, the quarterback that was at the high school was my role model. You
Absolutely.
Know, it was Juan Gorman. It was
Juan Gorman. I looked up to Juan Gorman.
It was
man.
Roosevelt North. Yeah, you know, when
absolutely.
I was coming up. And so I feel like there is a huge connection and accountability from an older kid standpoint to know that he's a role model for a younger kid. And then there's a mutual give and receive, because that younger kid now gets to, you know, ride the coattail of that older kid. And it holds them accountable. You know, in our call a couple weeks ago, we have our mental performance specialist, Donovan Martin. Shout out to Donovan Martin, man. He's a special guy, but you know, he gets on our calls and he does just a call on human development, personal development, and you know, how to achieve peak performance. And a lot of guys were talking. They were like, "Man, I never thought that all of this was encompassed in playing the position of quarterback." And so that's why I repeat to them all the time, you got to take everything that comes with it. You know, it's not just passing the ball. You got to take it all, man. You know, and that's just part of leadership. You know, quarterbacks oftentimes have the most influence on the team. But if you don't know what to do with that influence, you can misuse it. And so, you know, we're just trying to do everything we can and have a progression and a design of a program that can achieve results consistently, no matter if a kid has a big arm or a small arm. We just want to achieve it. You know, when I look at Peter Morrison, man, he probably played this game, had the best season I've ever seen in high school, and he only started for 1 year. You know, the year before he was a receiver, state champion. And I'm going to say this and be done, but Peter Morrison was the only person that believed he could win state that year until they started to get some momentum. And I had him write his goals down. He'll tell you this, he can confirm this. Put your goals in your locker. Don't tell them, don't share them with anybody. But every day before you go to practice, I want you to read those goals. This is your vision. This is why you practice. I said, don't worry about the games. I want you to focus on practice only, because you got 4 to 5 practices a week and 1 game. So let's change the mindset about the results in the game. Let's get the results in practice, bring the level of practice up, and you'll get those results on Friday night.
So how can kids or parents who are looking to get their kids some training, how can they get a hold of you? What are your handles on social media, or how can we get a hold of you?
First thing, follow me on Instagram, Antoine Taylor 08. It's ANTOINETAYLOR 08. And then you can follow us on at Matrix QB on Twitter. It's pretty simple. Or you can visit our website, which is www.matrixqbtraining.com. That's www.matrixqbtraining.com. Don't do the newsletter portion of it. Go to the on the page for like signing up, because we'll get an email and we'll just go through and we can contact you back. Sometimes we get confused if somebody signs up just for the newsletter, if they're inquiring about training services or if they just want to be added to the newsletter. So that's how you can get in contact with us. Antoine Taylor 08 on IG. Follow us, DM us. We respond all the time. If you want to just sign up for training, you know you got a kid that has potential. If you go to the IG handle and you click on the link that's in my bio, you can go right there, Matrix QB Training, sign up. So, that's how you get a hold of us. Thank you.
Antoine Taylor, once again, special, unique to the area of Fort Wayne. And
QB Whisperer, he's the best that is. If you need somebody to coach a quarterback, he's your man. And Antoine was so proud of everything that he accomplished in his career too, Jeff.
Well, and you were a QB, Joe. When you listen to Antoine speak, what really sticks out to you?
Just the teaching of it and being able to see that and being able to convey those ideas to the kids coming up. I got to Cincinnati, Jeff, and I got that playbook, and I was overwhelmed, okay? I mean, I was not prepared to be able to handle all the mental aspects of the game at a D1 level. Antoine is bringing that to these kids. I mean, anybody can come out here. Jeff, I could throw a football 65 yards when I was 16 years old. It was just stupid. But I didn't have all the mental aspects that I needed. And that's what's so impressive with Antoine. And then these guys out here, you look at Dre and you look at LB and these guys got credibility because they did it at a high level. So you're going to listen to these guys. But I think as far as the quarterback position, I can't tell you how important the mental aspect is. And that's what's impressed me so much with Antoine, because he's taken the lessons that he's learned from his playing days and he's able to teach those and ingrain those in the next group of quarterbacks coming up. And he's proven it, obviously, with his son and with the rest of these kids out here we're watching throw the football.
Well, and I like how he referenced back to his college playing days under Coach Donnelly. They'd go to the line of scrimmage and they'd have a couple different options.
Yeah.
Because what you call before you walk up to the line of scrimmage may not be the best play to run in that situation.
Totally. You got to be able to check out bad plays. He's absolutely right. There were so many times in the game, I was in the game, they'd have a play called, and I'm like, I knew instinctively that play wasn't going to work. So I got to check out of it. I got to check to something blue, which was always the run. Green was the air, and I got to check out of this. But that ability to recognize that at the line of scrimmage, it takes away wasted plays. And so I think that's what's impressed me the most is just the mental aspect of ball. Coming out here watching these kids learn the mental aspect of ball, and they're also making them better citizens, Jeff, and we need that in our community.
Yeah, he talked about, of course, Kevin Donnelly, and his offensive coordinator was Mike Yursich, who was at Ohio State, Oklahoma State, Texas, now at Penn State. So Antoine's been able to take a lot of that training from when he was younger, when he was a player. Like he said, take the goods and the bads from when he was a player and mold that into just the real deal, just the whole approach.
Yeah, he really has, because when you play that position, the quarterback, sometimes you can have such highs when you make such great plays, and then you can have such lows, at sometimes. So being able to take those lessons and really ingrain those in the kids. But it's been impressive today, man. It was really impressive to watch Luke Halpert throw the football out here today, Jeff. And obviously we know how good Carson is, but those defensive backs too, that I tell you what, man, that Keyser and Stewart for Carroll and Keyser for Homestead are just awesome prospects. And then obviously Ryland Crawford, we know how a huge prospect he is. Hood, how about that linebacker over from Lima? I believe it was Marcus Brown. I liked him. Hey, boy, to watch him run out there, Jeff, 6'2", 220. If I can put 10 pounds on him and the way he can swivel with his hips and cover, he's a D1 kid. So, great kids out here. But even you guys mentioned it, too. Nowadays, man, there is such great football all over, whether it's NAIA, Division II. There's great football all over, but I'm really impressed with the talent that was here. And it says a lot when a kid from Cathedral comes up here to compete, too.
Yeah, Jack Goheen from Cathedral, 6'3", 220, just Man, he looks like a Cathedral football player, doesn't he?
I tell you what, I watched him a couple times in coverage. He was able to turn his hips and cover the back on the seam route. And that's what you got to do at that middle linebacker position. You got to drop your hips and turn and run. So I thought he looked good, but just, I mean, if I'm a college recruiter, I mean, this is just, you could just pluck the kids out of here how good they are.
Absolutely. Well, we got another showcase coming up. It's going to be March the 20th. And that will complete our Midwest Exposure Skills Camp, the winter showcases. So that'll be one to look out for. I believe we're going to have multiple sessions in that exposure camp, and you're going to want to sign up. The spots go by pretty fast. You can go to tractionap.com. You can also on Facebook find them at Traction Athletic Performance, so at Traction AP on Facebook. Different places where you can find those registered links. So, Joe, it was fun. You know, we're in February. We're seeing some real good competitive football, and we're going to have another camp in a month. And next season, you know, it seems like at least the last couple of years, each season it just gets better and better.
It gets better and better. It's great to be out here with you. I was able to get out of the office, get away from those debits and credits a little bit, and come out here and watch the
tax
kids.
Season.
It's tax season, man. They got me chained to the desk, but I broke my chains and came out here, and it was exciting. But it's so exciting to see the development of these kids, Jeff, and what a great program that Traction AP has out here.
100%. So we had Darion White out down there on the turf. He's saying his goodbyes to everybody as we're wrapping things up. Darion, you got any last words?
No, you guys pretty much hit it on the head. I mean, we're so used to this. I mean, again, we did this last year, and even last year during COVID, it wasn't the first time we put together something like this. We just enjoy doing it, man. As you can see the kids. They have camaraderie amongst each other. These are the best players that you're going to find in this area, and they compete every Friday, but when they come in for something like this, it's a brotherhood. It really is, and so that's another thing that we like to try to produce here at Traction is a fraternity, something for these kids to come back to when they leave and go to school. You heard Antoine mention that, you know, he's got quarterbacks that go to school and they come back and they start training some of these younger quarterbacks, and you can start to see that process is one that produces pretty good results. And so we like to do the same thing across the board. Again, just bringing these kids, like you mentioned, kids from Cathedral, kids from Ohio, kids from all over the place who are coming in here just to get some exposure, get better, and be seen. So it's a great event. And thank you guys for providing, you know, all the live streaming and the color commentating and all that stuff, because, I mean, we really couldn't put something like this on without it.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to be excited a month from now with a couple different sessions. You know, then you can really focus in on these players. We had 90-plus guys out here today, so it's an outstanding day. Thank you to Dre Muhammad and Traction AP for all they're doing in the area. We had Tyler Sorg on camera. Joe Walburn was up here in the booth, and I'm Jeff Mahoney. So, folks, thanks so much, and have a wonderful rest of the weekend. Remember, make sure you sign up March 20th, the next Midwest Exposure Skill Camp, powered by Traction AP. We'll see you then. Welcome to the Summit City, home to the 260's dedicated high school athletes and fans. Each victory and celebration captured by our cameras. Treasure the highlights from the Summit Athletic Conference this season, or complete games live or on demand. After all, nobody's more proud to call Fort Wayne home than SummitCitySports.com.
Many of us talk about what we want. Very few want to pay the price to get it. There's a price for everything. You pay a heavy price to be great. It's more expensive to stay the same. You get what you pay for. So focus on value. Decide your destination, drive that direction, determine your destiny.
There are tons of benefits to using compression therapy, but my favorite are speeding up muscle recovery, reducing swelling and inflammation, and improving my athletic performance.
Quit wishing and working. Quit worrying and working. Quit whining and working. Just work.
I choose to do whole body cryotherapy after practices, games, and training. It reduces inflammation in my muscles and allows me to move more agile throughout my profession. I became a believer in iCryo after my severe injury in college at Notre Dame, tore my ACL, and I was looking for ways to recover, ways to get back on the field. So I'm thankful for iCryo.
The athletes has always been here, and they're getting better. I'm watching, Summit City Sports, man, they're doing an awesome job. And, that's a plug. Them dudes are doing an outstanding job. And I'm able to be in Nashville and watch games on YouTube that they're broadcasting, and I'm seeing the talent. And it is just truly outstanding. And, you guys have seen the talent that's in the NFL now from Fort Wayne, Indiana, the talent that's coming up now, and the talent that, is just here, man. It's really cool.
God doesn't worry if you believe in him. He simply says be, and it is. The sun, the moon, the stars, this universe all bear witness to him. His work is evident. You see it, you benefit from it. But God believed in himself before he told us to. Don't focus on who believes in you. Believe in yourself. Let your work be a witness to you.